Placeholder. Hey guys, it is I, the A Mike, and it's Ian, and we're back with another one, but a very special one. Um, not sure how to start this, but I guess I'll just speak, candidly. So recently, a friend of ours that you guys know, Willie, who's been on the show before, started his own. Well, I say ours because I be on that bitch a lot, but started our own. We started our own media site, I guess you can call it, or WordPress, and it's called Tap In Media. Where basically we talk about sports, movies, music, anything we want, and it's all of our opinions. It's biased, and it's what we feel. It's not trying to cater to anybody, but whoever is writing the article or statement, whatever you want to call it at the time. And he started that not too long ago, and we've been writing on the site, and we're also going to put the podcast on the site, and that's very exciting because hopefully that brings us to more people, and we can get it, get it off YouTube and maybe, or also on YouTube still, but it might reach more people. So it's very exciting. We're gonna try to start putting the podcast on there as well, and this is our first introduction. We just wanted to, tell you all about it and tell you, what's about to happen. So that's Tap In. You can go look it up right now. I think it's tapinmedia.com.
It's
Not
tapin.media.
It's tapin.media.
Mm-hmm.
Is it media.wordpress.com or is it just
I'm on it
tapin.media?
right now. It's tapin, all one word, .media.
Okay. Well, that's it. You guys can go look on there and see stuff. You see articles from
Yeah,
me.
I'll put a link in the description or something.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, we just get on there. We just give our opinions, and we've been doing that on this show for it got to be years by now, at least one or two. And we thought it would fit right in, so we're gonna put that on there as well. And we're not gonna it's not representative of the media place of the media site itself. Representative of me and him, Ian, what we say on here, and and I don't give a fuck if anybody feel bad about stuff, but whatever. But yeah, it's very
I
exciting. So
don't think that was necessary, but all right.
it's fine. I just want to let them know I don't care. But till I'm getting paid, I don't care. But look, but yeah, it's very exciting. Hey, you got any words on that?
Nah, if you want to check it out, check it out.
Yeah, yeah. I encourage you all to check it out. It's really good stuff, and I'm gonna be doing a lot on there, and we all are. So you should. If you support us on here, you can go support us on there, and you get the pod on there. So it's a win-win for you, and it's free. So shit. But but anyway, this is Placeholder Podcast. We're gonna get back to our regular scheduled program. But Tap In Media, go check that out.
Did you read my article, bro?
No,
That's
I don't
fine.
know what you was talking about.
It's fine.
I don't even know who that was on the front. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I'm closed minded, so I don't read stuff I don't know about.
All right.
I'm just letting you know.
I mean, I don't know how you learn about things.
I learn about stuff I want to learn about. I
I
don't learn
don't
about
even.
stuff
I don't
I
even
don't.
know how that makes sense. How do you know you want to learn about it until you learn about it?
Because Trump told me to listen to what I know.
Right. Okay. Um.
MAGA.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about something?
Hey, did you hear he said he think the election should be stopped this year?
You said postpone till after COVID.
COVID ain't ending no time soon.
At,
He's smart, man.
at this point, I mean, look, the whole plan for him was to be like, tell his supporters it's a hoax, it ain't real, and then by the time we get to like, you know, the time when we have to vote, people who believe in it are, Democrats and liberals, and they're like, I'm not going out. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to die. Like the black people who it really gonna hit. And then all the people who think it's hoax, his folks, they're gonna be like, well, I don't believe in it anyway, so I'm gonna go vote. It's smart marketing, bro. They know what they're doing.
It's really smart, and
It's I mean it's so simple, it's so obvious what they're doing, and people are like, well, he's just letting black and brown people die. It's like, yes, those are
yeah, he is. He
those
don't
are
give a
gonna
fuck
vote
about
against him. He
it.
knows what he's doing. Why would they?
And also, yeah, I hope the liberals and Democrats do go vote because y'all gonna fuck around and let them get back in there if y'all let this thing stop y'all from going out.
I mean, you got Kanye out here talking about I can still beat Biden off right ends. I'm like, it's over, bro. We 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 a fallen kingdom, bro. We the Roman Empire, like late Roman Empire. We getting ready to. This is the century of China. It's really going to be OV for America, honestly.
I'm glad you came around because I've been telling you this modern day Babylon.
When I saw it, I was like, I see people still supporting Kanye. I'm like, he tweeted, I can beat Biden off write-ins. He didn't say I can beat Trump. He said I can beat. I'm like, this is such obvious. I'm not even. I can't do it. Smart people out here like, hey, look, man, Kanye making a lot of sense. I can't trust Dems or Trump. I'm like, all right, y'all, okay.
I heard somebody say,
When they knock down your door talking about you can't have your hair like that and you can't dress like that and you gotta pledge allegiance to the republic, then I'm gonna be like, okay, that's what y'all wanted.
well, that's the Democrats because every time I go out, they say I got to wear a mask. So the Dems already doing that. I ain't really worried about the
I'm
Republicans
not,
doing
Nate.
it.
I'm not
Y'all,
even having this conversation about this with you.
what I do?
I'm not doing it.
What I
I'm not
do?
doing. He's about the Dems already trying to make. No, no, they ain't.
I went to
No,
Publix. I
no,
had to
no,
wear.
no, no. Look,
Who
look,
did that? It
look,
wasn't Trump.
look, bro. Look, bro. Look, bro. If being courteous to other people's life and health is too much for you, then I ain't got nothing to say to you about it.
People still dying
I look,
because you.
bro.
That ain't
Look,
stopping
bro. I'm
nothing.
not talking about it. I'm not
If
doing
it stopped the shit, I'd understand.
it, Nate.
People still dying.
Nate, I'm not doing it.
Matter of fact.
I'm not doing it. I'm not. You keep talking. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Okay, I'm
Hey,
not
hey,
gonna
hey,
say that.
look. If you listening, wear your mask when you go outside. That's all I gotta say.
You can wear it if you want,
That's all
but
I gotta say. I'm not doing it.
it ain't gonna stop. If you
I'm
get the
not
shit,
doing it. I'm
stop
not
it.
doing it.
And also, I heard somebody say
If
this.
you look, you obviously everybody got a choice. They can do what they want. The moment you
Hey,
don't
hold
wear
on,
a mask
hold on.
outside, don't talk to me.
Hey,
I don't
hold
want to
on,
see
hold
you.
on,
I don't want to know you.
hold on.
I'm
I
talking
heard
to everybody else.
somebody.
I ain't talking to you right now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I heard somebody say left wing, right wing, same bird. I like,
No,
yo.
no, get out of here. Get out of here. It's the same thing. Okay,
They the same thing, and they get the money from the same place.
you right.
They get it from the same motherfuckers.
No, you ain't right. No, I'm just gonna be no. I
And
get.
Obama was in them WikiLeaks too.
Look, Nate.
He was in there
I'm,
talking
I'm,
about
I'm
getting
not. I'm
people.
not doing it, bro. I'm not doing it. It ain't the same thing. It ain't the same thing.
Uh,
Every other day, you got. I've seen Republican voters. I do not blame them. I mean, I blame them a good bit, but I don't. I don't hold nothing against them. They're doing what they think is right. They've been miseducated. They've been underrepresented. Yada yada. The people in power on their side have a vested interest in keeping them stupid and like wrong-headed, which is why they stay on that path. You know what? I got. I think there's real sympathy to be had for the Republican voter in America, and I think they're good people, and they're honest people, and I think they're hardworking people. No cap. I think Republican establishment, politicians, businessmen, congressmen, all evil. Not one of them are good. The amount of look. I get why people be like, I don't like Democrats either. I don't like Republicans. I vote independent or I don't vote at all. I feel you, but tell you when every time Biden put out a video and be like, this Republican senator, he supports me. I'm like, get that shit out of here. They're all criminals. Ain't none of them said nothing when that man was blatantly breaking the law. Ain't none of them want to participate in impeachment. None of them did what they were supposed to do until it looked like Trump is gonna lose. And now they all like, well, Biden looks like the guy. Fuck them all. They're all evil. They're all corrupt. They all deserve to be in jail. Terrible, terrible human beings. And you know what? I get why they did it, and that's what's so bad about it. Because if you go back to like if you go to October 2016, every single one of them were like, we got to get Trump up out of here. Nobody likes him. He's not good for the party. As soon as he wins, they're like, well, he's the guy. You fall in line. No matter what he does, we don't say nothing bad about Trump. They're all evil, evil human beings. I hate them all. I don't want to hear from them. They're bad people. And at any point you say, well, it's the same on both sides. I've never seen a Democratic politician blatantly lie in the face of like overwhelming evidence and blatantly support a man who's openly racist, misogynistic, and bigoted in so many
Hillary
ways.
got a pedophile ring.
Huh?
Hillary has a pedophile ring. What are you
I don't
talking
think
about?
Hillary has a pedophile ring. I think Jeffrey Epstein was fucking handing pedophiles to rich,
Have
oligarchs
you
around
read
the
the
world.
WikiLeaks?
No, I haven't read no WikiLeaks. What I look like? What I saw the Epstein stuff dropped. That was like you got Bill Clinton on the list. You got all these other people on the list. It's like cool. Bill Clinton was a creep anyway. Fuck that nigga. But Trump has been accused of having sex with like a 13-year-old girl, and like nobody cares. I don't trust none of them. They're all bad. I bet you, I can almost guarantee you there are far more liars on the Republican side. There are far more people on the Republican side. You can look at their history as politicians that they are way less honest about their intentions than they are on the Democratic side. I can almost guarantee that. And look, regardless of what you say, Bernie Sanders is an independent politician. In the state of Vermont, he won his Senate seat as an independent, right? That's why people always should say he's not a real Democrat. He's not a part of the party. But he chose to run as a Democrat because even he knows, a dude like him knows, like, the fucking Republicans do have, like, at least the Democrats are swaying in my direction. The Republicans are completely in the opposite of what I believe. I can't even run, like, he didn't even try to run as a Republican, and that's how I know in my heart that they are not the same. And if any, and the people who say like they're both bad, they're typically Bernie supporters, or they're typically like fucking people who voted for Gary Johnson instead of Hillary. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, that's crazy to me because I'm like, Bernie wouldn't have ran as a Democrat then if they're the same. He would have just ran as a Republican. If his competition was Trump, he could beat Trump in a primary easily. But obviously, he did it because he knows his values have more resonance, and people on that side are more willing to listen. It's silly to me. I'm done. I'm not talking politics no more. I'm sorry. This is
Or maybe you have a thought about Bernie that ain't quite true.
Well, man, they all got to play the game and do their thing. I've seen people like Schultz be like, I like Bernie, but man, he pussy for giving it up to Biden. I'm like, there was no way he could have won. What was he gonna do? Just run for the sake of it? Y'all all stupid. All of y'all stupid.
Hey, how you feel about the email that said Hillary's gonna eat a chicken for Molech?
Nate, I'm not. I'm not.
And if you look on Molech, he's the god of child sacrifice.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
And
this. I'm not feeding into the Alex Jones conspiracy talk. I'm not doing it.
it's not conspiracy. If you look up Molech, it's a real god, and he was about.
Look, bro, I don't know nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that.
And when I say real, I don't mean real as in I believe it,
No,
but
no, you saying realism? He has precedence in history. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Look, man, if unless there's an FBI investigation or like some sort of legitimate look into these things,
Why would the
I have
FBI look into it when she in their pocket? What you talking about?
come on, FBI. There's an FBI investigation into Epstein, and if he's implicated, then probably her husband will be, and there's probably a good chance that Hillary will be as well to some degree. In
Man,
the
that
Epstein
man on
thing.
Epstein on that
If
island
they say
still.
if there's literal, I think there might. I'm gonna go say this. If there is stuff in those documents from that Maxwell lady and from Epstein, where it basically is like Clinton went to the island and he smashed underage girls, that by association is going to implicate Hillary in some way, and that's going to really hurt her public persona. And then she's going to have to say something at some point. It's coming.
But but you didn't need that if you looked at the WikiLeaks. She been
Nate, I'm
talking
not.
about.
I'm not looking at WikiLeaks. I'm just going to tell you right now.
But wait, okay, cool. But let me talk.
Killer
She
Mike
been
is in WikiLeaks.
shut up.
What
She
does that
been
mean?
talking about PizzaGate and pizza. If you know what pizza is in terms of
Nate,
child
I
pornography,
don't believe in pizza.
it's pedophilia, bro.
I don't believe in pizza.
All you gotta do is look up pizza on Urban Dictionary. It's a term used for pedophilia, children.
I don't believe in Pizzagate.
And she said on one of the
Nate, I'm
WikiLeaks,
not doing this. No, I'm not.
if I listen to you talk politics, you can listen to me talk about PizzaGate.
Because this is good conspiracy nonsense.
It's not. It's you can look it up.
You can look up anything. That doesn't make it true.
You can look up Molech. That's true.
That don't mean look, but that doesn't mean Molech exists.
Yeah, but the fact that she said it and know about it, then
Did
that
you
tell
hear
you who
her
they
say this? Is there audio of her saying this?
were. I seen the WikiLeaks.
Is there audio of her saying something about Molech and Pizzagate?
No.
Well, then I don't care.
Okay. Some people just ain't gonna be of the knowledge, man. Hey, you know what?
Look, bro, I'm
That's
not. I'm not involved. And like I said, the Epstein thing came
it's an
out.
wait, hold on,
Cool.
wait, hold on.
Until
It's an
something else,
easier.
I don't want to hear about
Shut
it.
up. It's an easier life that way. It really is. Because once you know the stuff, is you just know.
Nate, I'm not.
But I understand
I'm not.
your
I'm not.
I understand
I'm
your
not. I'm just not.
trepidation. You have to because we recording.
Yeah,
But
but what I'm saying is, I'm just not.
I understand your trepidations.
It's not
But
trepidations. I just don't. No, no.
I understand. I understand why you don't want to.
This is
I get
this is like 4chan, like deep Reddit stuff. I don't care about this.
It's not deep Reddit
It
stuff.
is.
It's
It is. That's what it is.
okay. Okay. Well, I'll say this. All you gotta do is watch the Outer Shadows documentary, and that's not fortune. It's a real documentary with like
All
real sources and everything.
right. I'm gonna Google it right now. Shadows documentary.
Out of the Shadows documentary.
Out of the shadows.
I think it's Out of Shadows actually.
All right. It's out of shadows, right?
Yeah.
Who made this documentary?
It was a Hollywood stuntman. He used to be in all the movies.
I definitely don't care about that like, at all. Um, what movies was he in? Equilibrium.
How you know it's fake?
Huh?
Oh wait. When I said I was closed minded, you was like, "Oh, how you gonna learn stuff?" You very closed minded to this stuff.
I've heard of Pizzagate, and I've heard it in reference to like crazy conspiracy people, and I just don't. I don't buy
But why
it. It,
crazy
it
if you
it's
haven't
a
looked?
it's a it's a it's a it's a it's a talking point that a lot of people do use to discredit her and to make her seem like she's part of this like Illuminati ring that does these things.
She
Like
is.
I'm not saying that stuff don't exist. Obviously, with the Epstein stuff, it's like, look, these fuckers are a lot of these people are crazy. I'm just saying there are there are far better things to discredit Hillary on that are substantiated and that are actually real than something that's like
But
you
politics
used by
ain't real.
misogynists online to like discredit
Ian,
Hillary
Ian,
Clinton.
Ian,
Man,
Ian,
boy,
Ian. Politics aren't. If you talking about
what?
politics to discredit, politics aren't real. This stuff I'm talking about is real. You talking about made up stuff that ain't gonna never change anything. That's what I'm talking about.
You talking about politics isn't real?
Politics ain't real, bro. It's a game, and they all on the same team.
Okay, but people cast their votes. They choose.
No, you don't. They pick who they want.
Look, look, man. You
And Obama
look.
was
If
selected because he
regardless of
wanted.
what you say, politics ain't real. Depending on who is in that seat and who has the power in that
But
political
the
game,
president don't have power.
depending on who's in that seat for that political gain or that political whatever, they there are tangible things that change and are reorganized based on who is in power in that moment. Maybe they're too macro for us to feel them day to day or to think that they're real, which is why a lot of people disengage with politics because like I don't feel the impact of it. But honestly, the people who do feel the impact and the people who are gonna make the set the stage for the next 10, 20 years of industry and fucking where this country goes and how people get and assume work, that all matters. The recession in 2008 doesn't happen in a bubble. You don't feel it
But it
beforehand.
ain't the
The
president that
recession in
does
I'm
it.
saying the recession in 2008 is a thing that
It's no, but
the recession was the result
hold on,
of
bro.
of,
Hold
of,
on.
of two terms of policy decisions made by the Bush administration. That doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Okay, yeah, okay. But
Listen, no, listen, what I'm saying. If you're living in 2003 to like 2007, you make and you work a 9 to 5 job that pays well, and you got modest life, and you paying a house note and a car note. You don't feel the impact of it. You don't think it impacts you really until 2007 hits, and you realize all those things that happened like on the big scale at these banks and in these companies, and you're like, oh shoot, it all came down at once, and then now you're feeling it because now you're the plant that you worked at closed because now they can no longer afford to do this and that because the people at the top lost money that they didn't have. And that kind of thing happens, and that matters because of who's in power. There's a reason why that recession didn't hit after Bill Clinton, but there's a reason why it hit at the end of the Bush administration because there's a tangible difference in the way they govern and who they put in places to make certain decisions. So we can say it's just a game; it don't really matter, nothing really changes. But if you look at history, even immediate American history, there's a tangible difference between the way Trump ran things and the way Obama ran things, and why people are saying, well, Trump has the best democracy because he's inheriting the decisions Obama made. Now, when Trump gets out and Biden wins, Biden has to now inherit the poor decisions Trump made in this COVID situation and all the bad things he did and having to roll back some of that stuff if that is at all possible, or even if they want to. Maybe Biden will be like, yeah, more cuts, more tax cuts for the rich. We just won't raise taxes on the middle class like Trump did. We'll just do it incrementally. So who knows? They can all be a certain level of bad. I don't want Biden either, but at the end of the day, there is a tangible difference, and you can see it. You may not feel it, and it may not seem that important or that necessary, but it's something that matters, and there is a tangible effect at the end of it. Long term or whatever. All right,
if you care
I'm
about
looking at the dude who made this Out of Shadows documentary. the movies he stunt coordinated for, some big ones. Yeah, in the documentary, is he talking about celebrities or he's talking about politicians?
He's talking about everything.
Okay.
He's talking about Hollywood. He's also talking about how Hollywood and politics merge and how the CIA has been in Hollywood for decades, and that's true.
Yeah.
And and that's not a conspiracy theory. That's actually true.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, there's always been government and stuff for sure.
but I mean, all you gotta do is look at it. If you don't, that's fine. But it's a long documentary. It ain't that long, like an hour and something. I listened to the whole thing
It's like
yesterday.
an hour 20, less than
Yeah,
that.
I listened to the whole thing yesterday. It's fascinating, and I knew some of that stuff already. Also, I was saying the politics you should care if you care at all is the state and local ones. The other stuff really don't matter. But anyway, yeah, I would say just listen to it. But I know you won't, and that's fine. I've come to terms that some people just ain't gonna want to hear these type of things, and they might seem far fetched, but a lot of this stuff seems far fetched, and it ain't. What's far fetched to me is believing that. Yeah, a lot of this stuff is important, like Biden, and Trump. But it is what it is. It's a fascinating documentary. Though. I recommend it to everybody. It's called Out of Shadows. It's amazing, and it ain't just him. He brings on people. He brings on a CIA person who basically like confirms that yes, the CIA has infiltrated Hollywood for decades. And they talk about the Church of Satan and its rise in like the '60s and all that kind of stuff in Hollywood. And they use excerpts from things to make their case, and they talk about the state of entertainment and how entertainment has been used and propagated to spread messages for a long time subliminally, even like kids movies and things of that nature. And it's just really fascinating. So it's stuff I didn't know about, like with those kid movies. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Hmm.
And you just see, and you're like, oh wow, it's been there the whole time. You just don't notice it.
Yeah.
And
I
that's a
mean, oh, sorry.
and that's a lot of TV and movies. A lot of stuff in those movies. It's been there a long time, and I learned today. Reading up on these. What is it? The Department of Defense, and how like for all war movies after 9/11, they made it to where like how movies have if they want to use like military grade stuff, they have to go to the Department of Defense and get and ask them for money or resources, things of that nature. And then the Department of Defense then has input in the movie in terms of what it's showing. If you look at all those like Olympus Has Fallen movies, all of those movies have been influenced by the Department of Defense in terms of like what they're allowed and not allowed to show. And if you look at it, all of it is like real commentary on like real life in terms of how this country and the people at the top view like war in the Middle East and the war on terror and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
it just, and then like if you go back to like the '80s and '90s, all those movies, if they have something to do with war, the Department of Defense would probably on set and have some type of input in terms of like what they could show, what they couldn't. If they
Hmm.
didn't, they would take that resource. And I thought that was fascinating. That
Yeah.
movies. Why are you screaming?
I was about to interject, but you kept going, so I'm just waiting on you to finish.
You know what I'm saying? That it's fascinating that movies have input from some of these large organizations who you think have like real world stuff to deal with, but they're worried about movies. But that's because the entertainment is important things for them because that's how they distribute their messages to the people at large. Because people are entertained, and by the television, if you slow down television, it's television, and they have channels that do what programming, and so all of I mean, it's true. It's true. Television.
um, that's great. That's so funny. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a whole critical. You could find plenty of articles on this from really smart film critics and things like that. But there's so much writing about the MCU and its place with the U.S. military and how it's been people culture writers have been very critical of how jingoistic a lot of the stuff is, and like stuff like Captain Marvel, where they aren't critical of the U.S. military in the slightest in any way, and the only
Yeah,
way they're able to use that branding and that identification as the U.S. Air Force, I think she's a member of, uh,
yeah,
Carol Danvers, is that they can't depict it in a negative light, and they also I do think they do get funding from it as well. So there's always this stuff about how conservative the MCU is, and all these the U.S. military is a huge, huge department of like the U.S. Political. I don't know the word for it, but
Very much so.
yeah, I mean, so much money is pumped into that. So much about marketing, so much about PR, all these things. So it makes complete sense that so much of that also has to feed into the film industry as well, which has to be subsidized in some way, you know, in some fashion. I mean, part of the thing about the stuff with kids is I think it was during the Reagan era where he lifted restrictions on a lot of things. Where he was like, "Oh yeah, before you couldn't market to children. You couldn't make stuff that marketed toys and food products and all these things." But if you see like the reason why the '80s is such a moment of like Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is good, but all these things like He-Man, all these things used to sell toys is because the legislation was like deregulated to a point. It was like now we can just throw all that shit at kids, all the sugary snacks, all the loud cartoons and stuff, and now that has transplanted into now like what we value in culture. It kind of sucks, but all these. I mean, I've talked about this with friends of mine. Like there was. If you look at pre the Reagan administration, like 79 back, there was a certain level of like I'm sure it always existed. There always was a certain tinge of anti-intellectualism in America, but that Reagan era was a turning point in that it really changed things to be like populism is it, depicting like catering to the common man, all people, like giving like kind of spreading the far wide, spreading the like the umbrella wide. You know what I mean? Like marketing. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but just the means of like kind of catering to the lowest common denominator in any given product or service or industry. And then by the time we get past Reagan and we're moving into the present, that kind of culture of everybody has to be accepted now means because everyone has to be accepted, we have to cater to people who aren't the smartest. And therefore, the people who aren't the smartest feel just as valid as the people who worked 30 years to become geniuses. And then they don't, and then that leads into a culture where you don't believe experts and people decide, like, oh, it's a hoax because Trump said it is, even though doctors say it isn't, regardless of what you think the severity of like the COVID thing, but all this is like a compounding effect of like how culture is handled, how we market to people, how we what stories we value and what things we kind of push forward. I mean, I'm very distraught about the future of cinema. I've seen recently like the kind of talking points and the way people engage with movies and film and television is so like didactic and like so unproductive and just so unwilling to give any sort of like leeway in the way of like intellectual, like intellectual courtesy or the benefit of the doubt in any sort of way. And just the way we attack culture and film and television and politics, like so unwilling to compromise in any sort of way. All these things are a result of like us, at least for the past 30, 40 years, just being taught like it's okay, uh, these things matter. Even the stupid things that you care about, they matter in some way. All the stuff that you had as children should apply to you as an adult. All that shit is all bad. And I don't. And recently, I think it's been like in the past couple months, especially now that I'm not working, so I'm just thinking all the time. I just don't see a path out of this because people are only getting stupider, and the smart people are getting less and less interested in engaging with dumb people, and and dumb people are getting less and less interested in listening to anybody else. And it's part of it. They say like, oh, it's the internet, it's social media, it's politics. I don't think it's that. I think we're really coming to the point where we're reckoning with decades of undereducating people, of unrepresenting them, and not being fair to them or their reality. Because I don't think it's fair to like poor white people to just demonize them, and I don't think it's fair to like other people to demonize them or other them in any sort of way. But then also all that kind of like validating of like your own personal experience also leads to idiots not being able to be uh like whenever you have a let's say someone's like, I want to make a Star Wars movie that's female centric with an all female cast, and like the kind of vitriol that would come with that would be like, well, what's wrong with men? That sort of like lack of being able to bridge, like there's nothing inherently wrong with the female driven Star Wars movie, but there's something in like this kind of generation of people that they just be like, ugh, why are you doing this? This is not good. You're pushing it down my throat. all of that is stems from like just such a swath of badness that we've just imprinted onto American culture, and that I just don't see a path out of it. I think we're all just gonna like run into the ground until we're left with nothing but like the cheapest and easiest entertainment with no sort of challenge and no smart people and nobody willing to talk to each other either. I just don't. I'm very.
Ian, I was about to tell you about WikiLeaks, and you didn't want to hear it. You the main problem that you're talking about.
I, I, WikiLeaks.
You are the biggest hypocrite. I listened to that bullshit you were just talking. I like, that's you. Everything you were saying is you. You the biggest hypocrite I know.
I just don't buy into WikiLeaks because there's a lot of disparate information that doesn't pertain to like relevance conversation, and also there's really no way of me verifying it in any capacity at all.
Okay,
It's just like a series of information, and whether it's true or not, who knows? Like I said, I don't know. But
but also, but also,
until it's curated in a fashion where you say like, this is what we know, and this is how we have discovered it to be true in this way.
but also,
I can't really
okay,
buy into
okay,
it.
I got you. But also, you are the person you was talking about. Because the things I try to tell you, you're kind of like close. You have a closed door mentality too of like, I'm not trying to hear that. You basically just said it throughout the first few minutes of this podcast. And I have a person who was here that hurt you. You didn't really want to hear anything that you didn't either understand or that you didn't know about, and you just wrote it off as nonsensical. So you do the same thing. I just want to.
Well, not really, because I don't want to relitigate what we just talked about. But part of the thing was you mentioned the thing about both sides are bad, and my point was I don't want to hear that because I don't think that's true in the slightest. That's like a really cheap and not really honest portrayal of like left and right in politics, especially with establishment figures. If you want to look at like history, you know what I mean. And then
Okay, wait,
and then you mentioned the thing about the COVID thing, and I was like, I don't really buy into that because I think a lot of bad faith people have been on the side of like it's a hoax, yada yada. We shouldn't be doing this, and then that's just going to feed into how Trump gets reelected and how good, honest, hardworking people die as a result of people not believing in that.
okay, fine. I will say this: I don't care about politics. So the more we talk about it, the more I don't care. But I will say this to that Ronald Reagan thing because that's the most important thing you was talking about. Because the rest of that is bullshit. Because if a man came out today and was like, "I want to do an all men Star Wars with no women," and that's the focal point, women would be in an uproar, and you wouldn't say anything. You'd just be like, "Yeah, that should be." But anyway,
But that's part of the intellectual like dishonesty of it because there's a political implication of like what that means versus what an all female Star Wars means. That's you can say like, oh, they're the same thing because it's all one thing and then all another thing, but that's not honest. It's not honest to history, and that's not honest to what history has shown us, right? I forget I was talking to someone and they were saying something crazy, and I said like, there's a difference. Or no, I wasn't talking to them, but I saw a video and I was thinking like, look, man, there's a difference between a white person, like if me and a white person were on camera, there's an honest difference between me saying, look at this stupid ass cracker, and him being like, look at this stupid ass nigga. And to say like, oh, they're the same thing is it completely intellectually dishonest. And that's kind of comparable to the female male thing. Because we know the history of nigger. Cracker doesn't mean anything.
but you know the problem with that is, in today's world, if a woman said I want to make an all female Star Wars, she might get it done, and men might not like it, but it ain't gonna stop it. If a man said I want to make an all male Star Wars, and it gets traction and it gets made, and women cause a lot of uproar, it'll get pulled, and that person might lose their career just because it's an all male Star Wars.
But but
That is
but here's the
that's
thing. But here's the thing
no,
about
that's the
that's the difference though. A man would not have to say I'm making all new Star Wars. He would just do it because the precedence is that is the baseline
but
of
it
what
would
is just
also get pulled when women would be like, "Why aren't you making all male Star Wars?"
fair,
So it don't matter if
fair.
he can do it. If it don't stay up, what's the point of doing it in the first
But
place?
I'm
A
saying
woman thing,
the reason why you say all women Star Wars in any capacity because you're saying is like this is such an anomaly that that this is a marketing decision. We're like,
it
look,
ain't even an anomaly no more.
this is
We have
never.
all women everything now.
But I'm saying like if you were to say like that, that's
Black
the,
Lives Matter
the
were made by 3 black women, and it was about black men getting killed. But if you go to that mission statement, it literally says our focus will be on trans, queer, and women because
where's this mission statement at?
you go to Black Lives Matter doc. I looked it up today. Go to
Let me see.
blacklivesmatter.com. Go to their about. You can go to their like history or whatever. It's made by three black women, and they said it made because of Trayvon Martin's case against George Zimmerman was acquitted or whatever. And then as you keep reading, it says, we didn't want to base it's basically, I'm paraphrasing. We didn't want to base this on just like black men. So the focus of this moving forward will be on queer, trans, and black women because we thought it'd be better to focus on the margins of this conversation instead of the majority, which is black men. They're basically saying that they took the focus and put it on something else, even though it was made for black men being killed by the police, and they've made it an all-encompassing thing where it's not even about black men. And they said, paraphrasing, we basically want y'all to be behind us and support us, but this movement will not be about you. You can go look it up. I'm not making that up. So when you talk all this stuff
I'm on,
about,
hold on. I'm on the about page now. I'm looking for it.
just it's a lot of words, but you just find it's like a middle paragraph.
We're expanding.
So I just can't take it seriously when you talk all this bullshit because I know what's happening, and
Okay.
it's an agenda.
All right. I'm gonna read it. We affirm the lives of Black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all Black lives along the gender spectrum. Our network centers those who have been marginalized within Black liberation movements. Fair. Um, we are working for Black lives and are no longer systematically targeted. We are working for a world where Black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. We affirm our humanity, our contribution to society, and our resilience in the face of the rallying cry. The call for Black Lives Matter is a rallying cry for all Black lives striving
I
for.
think you're in the wrong part.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking. I went to about and I went to about Black Lives Matter.
No, then you got to go to about, and it's gonna. What I think it's gonna say like her story.
Yeah, I see her story. Mhm.
You click on that one.
Okay, the three women.
Anytime
Yes, I
on the
see.
story, you know it's gonna be some bullshit. But
Okay. Oh my gosh. Black
uh,
Lives Matter. Our
you got
organized work, everyday people. I'm looking for it. Okay. Black liberation movements in this country have created room, space, and leadership mostly for Black heterosexual cisgender men, leaving women, queer, and transgender people and others either out of the movement or in the background to move the work forward with little or no recognition. As a network, we have always recognized the need to center leadership of women and queer and trans people, to maximize our movement muscle, to be intentional about non-replicating harmful spaces that excluded so many in the past movements for this liberation. We made a commitment to placing those at the margins closer to the center. Is that the issue? Is that what you're talking about, or should I keep reading?
what she's basically saying is black men get behind us to kind of.
That's not what they said.
That's it.
They,
If you if you agree
she
that
didn't say
mention,
we're removing our focus from black men. She's saying we're trying to also prioritize them and bring them up to the same
she said that cis. No,
relevance as the black
she
men.
said that. Hold on. She said that queer, gay, and women are the center of this movement now, and we will put them
Mm.
in the middle and basically the forefront.
No, that's not what she said. I will read it back to
And
you.
you have to read. First of all, you gotta read through the lines. You're thinking way too two dimensional. I'm a three dimensional thinker, so I know what that means.
What she said, or
Okay,
that's not what the text says. It says,
okay.
as a network, we have always recognized the need to center the leadership of women and queer and trans people, to maximize our movement muscle, and to be intentional about not replicating harmful practices that have excluded so many past movements for liberation. We made a commitment to placing those at the margins closer to the center. It doesn't even say that they are now centered on the movement. They said we're
Read the first part. Hold on. Read that first part you read at the beginning on that part.
okay. As organizers who work with everyday people, BLM members see and understand significant gaps in movement spaces and leadership. Black liberation movements in this country have created room, space, and leadership mostly for Black heterosexual cisgender men, leaving women, queer, and transgender people and others either out of the movement or in the background to move the work forward with little or no recognition. And then I'll read the second half of the paragraph. As a network, we have always recognized the need to.
You already read it, right?
Yeah, I just read that.
Yeah, you already read it. So I want to ask you this. So on a movement that was started because of Trayvon Martin and I can't think of the other guy's name. I'm trying to be disrespectful, but the one
Uh,
in Ferguson,
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, Tamir Rice. It started around that time. A
Sure.
movement started by black men, or a movement that started because of black men being killed and black boys being killed by the police. three black women started it, and then
Mhm.
said, "Hey, we're gonna focus on queer, trans, and women," when they weren't even the center of what the whole thing was about in the first place.
Hmm.
Nothing about that piques your interest in terms of, well, what is this movement about? All of a sudden, it ain't about what it was at the beginning.
All right, but can I ask you? Let me ask you a couple of questions. Right? Is a movement not allowed to broaden its scope of relevancy, especially now with like the world with a big magnifying glass on like black and brown issues? Are they not allowed to be like we're also encompassing these as well?
I would say this to that: the movement wasn't this big when it was just men, and it became big when it became about other stuff. And I think that's by design. I don't think that I don't think a lot of women cared about the movie when it was just about men.
Mm.
And now you see a bunch of women caring about it. All I see up and down my timeline is women saying, just for Breonna Taylor. And that's great. What happened to George Floyd? Did we just forget that that man exists? And
Well,
that's why
well I think because his murders got arrested.
but did they?
They did. They're looking to go to trial and all that good stuff. I think the point with Breonna Taylor is they haven't even been apprehended. They still have their jobs. I think
I think the point with Breonna Taylor is
so. I
that's
get
what
I get why that's more of a priority.
I don't. Well, you know what? I get why it's more of a priority because I get what the movement is about now. It ain't about black men. And every time I saw a picture of the protest, you know who I saw talking with a bullhorn in their mouth? A woman. I ain't see no men out there leading. Because you know what happened if a man walked up there and said, "Hey, let me talk," and he ain't Michael B. Jordan or one of these NBA players, they would have said, "Nigga, get the fuck back in that crowd. This is our movement." That's what would have happened.
I would disagree. I can't really argue some of the stuff you made. That's just how you feel.
You
All,
can't argue none of what I'm saying.
all right, but all I'm saying is based on what I'm reading, they don't say that we have, which would be crazy thing to write if they said we are choosing to transition away from focusing on the injustices black men face to focus on these other people, which would be nuts. Oh,
And what they basically said at the beginning was black liberation movements in the past have been led and focused mainly on black cisgender heterosexual men. Why all
yes,
that other shit matter? I
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
I
because
don't
they're what.
Ian, let me talk. Why all that other shit matter? I don't understand. But you bring all that up because that's your point. You want to focus on gay. You want to focus on trans. You want to focus on all this like sexual stuff
But what's wrong with
because
that?
that's your movement. It ain't about black men, it especially ain't about black straight men. It's about anybody who's gay, trans, and a woman. If you notice in that in the about thing you read, she named everybody except men. Now, why did she name women incarcerated, disabled, dumb, ignorant, stupid, but trans, queer? Where was a man? She even said women. If you say all that other stuff, I thought women was implied, but I guess man is implied. But wait, if you're gonna say women, why you gonna say man? See,
It, it,
I
it,
understand. And look, I'm still talking. I understand. It's hard when you think stuff is one way and it ain't. I understand, but
yeah,
like I said, I read between the lines, and I'm a three dimensional thinker.
I
I
got
know what the fuck Ian, stop talking.
you. I
I know
got
what the fuck they was saying, and it wasn't just well, we just everybody's involved, but no,
you. Oh man.
what they're saying is we're focusing on queer, trans women, and gay black men also. But the hetero, cisgender, all that bullshit, man. Nah, because y'all in the past, y'all were leaders, and it didn't include us as much. So
Yeah,
now we finna not include y'all as much, and it's
I don't.
about. I mean, that's what it is, man. I don't know what to tell you, but that's what it is.
I think that's what they're saying at all.
I know you don't. I know.
Nate. All I would say to that is, we know historically, uh,
I don't know nothing historically,
his
but me and
I would say historically we know that most black liberation movements have been led and centered and propped up by black men, right?
because they should.
Civil rights issues, sure, Malcolm and Martin, they were leaders, obviously. I think the
They,
point they're trying to make is, um, a lot of people were still raised in this country and with these set of ideals, and even within a marginalized group that is black people in America, there is a certain level of bias and a certain level of dismissiveness towards, and sometimes outright hostility towards queer people, disabled people, women, disrespect, all these things. And that what they're I think the point they're trying to make with this passage is these people have. even within their own community, they have faced this kind of opposition. All right, obviously less so than like a white person doing it, but they still felt it. So, so hopefully to be a more inclusive organization about the liberation of, down for the liberation of all black people. Shout out Lord Harrier. That they're like, we're making a conscious effort to include them as well. Before you would say black
But
people.
who told? Wait, who told them to include anybody?
Look, Nate. That's their prerogative as an organization. I'm not saying that they chose it. Maybe,
Exactly, and that's
maybe in
why
their
that
heart, maybe in their
and
heart of
that's
hearts, they
why the
felt like
organization
maybe
don't
Nate,
it
maybe
don't
in their
rock
heart of
with me.
hearts, they said like,
Hey, that's why the organization don't represent me. It's fine. That's cool. It don't represent
but
me.
Nate.
All right.
What I'm saying is, well, nothing they're doing is inherently bad.
To you.
I don't think at all, because I think they've
Okay.
done.
To you.
I think they have showed up and they have presented themselves as a face and you know uh fighting for black men who have been killed. And we have seen that since the Mike Brown issue, where they have showed up and they have been there and they've tried to do their best to be heard and make significant change. And I think it's okay to also be like, yes, black men are probably getting the worst, black cisgendered men. And we see that because that's what's been presented to us in like the
But
national.
they're not saying that. All of it on my timeline is black women are the most unprotected people in this society. So what you
What,
talking? What you
what
talking about?
what you're seeing is isolated like points of view from black individuals,
No,
right?
I'm seeing agents of chaos. That's what I'm seeing. What you talking? Fuck you
You know,
talking about?
you know. Nate gonna give me cancer here laughing at this, but
That's fine.
hilarious.
You can't
I-
cancel
what
somebody. That
what
don't.
what my point is, I don't think anything they said in that passage or anything in or like is inherently bad because I do think uh people. I think in all groups there are marginalized subsections of that group, and I do think you can say black women have been largely uh uh I don't know the word. Well, I can't think of words today.
Because it ain't nothing to
have,
say.
have, have been have been largely like second to like the will of man, and then like
There's a,
queer
first of
people to
all,
the will of straight people, and
first of
disabled
all,
people to the will of able-bodied people. And I think,
first of all, Ian, nobody's equal to anybody.
oh
That's
my
first.
gosh, I'm talking about politically and socially. I'm not talking about like
Oh, okay, and that's I don't deal with politics, so I'm just dealing with the real. Nobody equal to nobody. There's things that they do better. There's things we do better, and there's roles that they play better. There's role we play better. The leadership role, it should be a man. That's what it is, and that's the problem.
hard disagree over here, but okay,
I know you will, but I ain't gonna even get into all that. But the leadership role should be a man. But whatever, especially in the house.
hard
But
disagree.
whatever. I know you do. But anyway, I want to say this real quick. I saw this headline for an article. I didn't read it, but it was like hip hop. I think No Name put it up. I think you sent that to us.
Yeah, it wasn't No Name's article. She reposted it.
Yeah, it was something like hip hop, which was made off of police brutality and all that stuff. Is hasn't answered his own questions of like the patriarchy and like and the rappers giving into their whiteness basically. And I noticed like
That's an unfair representation of what the passage was, but okay.
well you can pull it up and read the article. I know what
I,
it
I
said.
don't I don't want to read specifically, but her point was like, yes,
No. I don't want to hear her point because I don't care about her point.
no,
Tell
no,
me what.
I'm talking about what the
Tell me
article,
the name of the article.
the passage from the article was essentially like,
No. I don't need essential. I can look it up if you ain't, but you ain't gonna do essential. I want to read the
you
title.
just did a paraphrase where you just basically spit off the dome what it was saying, and you were reading from it explicitly.
But you were just about to say, no, it ain't that. So if it ain't
I'm,
that,
I'm about to say I'm about to say essentially what was the point of it.
yeah, okay.
Like you said, with the police brutality and hip hop, that was like the core of it to like, talk about social issues. That it still has faced like even with that being the preeminent purpose of it existing, that hip hop culture as a whole still falls into like misogyny and like leaving into the
Misogyny.
patriarchy by leaving behind women. It was
So,
about like hip hop culture essentially disrespecting women to some degree, and that they have to reckon with that.
no. Now they use the word whiteness. Talk about that too.
Let me just pull it
Cause yeah, I know you need to pull up because you're trying to deflect and get out of it. Because what they said was,
up.
because what they've been saying recently is black men are the white men of the black community, and that's been running rampant. So at the same time, why are black men supposed to defend these bitches if that's all they got to say about black men? I want you to answer me that.
I don't see. Okay, that's you saying it is one of the few spaces where black men can emulate the power ideals of whiteness.
Yes.
That what you were talking about? Okay, I get that. I get why that would be an issue. I would say I wouldn't use whiteness, but I get what they're saying.
And
I mean,
of course you do, because to you everything I say is right, and you
no,
bad, and you part of the problem.
no. Because look. Here's the thing. J. Cole has been coming under fire recently, and I saw some tweets the other day, which are really looking at like J. Cole's lyrics back, like going back, and it was like, I can't believe J. Cole got away with this. Now, if you look at those lyrics isolated in the song, it does look bad. Somebody posted the Illuminati lyrics where he's like, my verbal AK say faggots, and I don't mean no disrespect. You know that part?
He said, "I don't mean no disrespect when I say faggot, okay, faggot."
Exactly what he said. Don't get so sensitive. It's I forget what he said. He said, "Don't get
Yeah,
so
stop
sensitive.
being
It's
a
between you." And people was like, regardless of whether he was trying to make a commentary on it, it's still really offensive that he said this. Now,
okay, and
my instinct was to be like, "Man, fuck y'all. J Cole ain't no homophobe." But also at the same time, I'm like, but that's fair that bit of the song is kind of weirdly hostile and problematic, and not for him to make that point. So I can see how one could feel that way, right? So as much as I love J. Cole, part a big message, especially early on in his music, is about him kind of shifting, like presenting himself as like the kind of ideal dude, and then shifting kind of blame like towards hoes and things like that who don't respect and understand love. Like people talk about a lot of talk recently has been about the song "No Role Models" that J. Cole's made, which is a song I love absolutely, and a lot of women love, wholeheartedly. But also, if you look at the song, and if like you don't have no connection to J. Cole at all, and you just look at it as an objective thing, is a very misogynistic song. Especially for like, and obviously we have different opinions on this, but if you're a type of person who's like women should be able to do what they want and not be judged, they are right. They're a person just like you or I, and they can fuck whoever they want and not be made fun of or considered second class because of it. And that song kind of posits that like we don't want to save these hoes. They just trying to fuck for the fame. We fuck them when we kick them out. They ain't worth our time. You know what I'm saying? And they stupid. And we wish we had Nia Longs, but these bitches out here on reality shows. So I get how if you look at that could be a problem. And I think that's part of what the article is talking about. It's like, why are we allowing, like, J. Cole's considered one of the good guys, but yet we're allowing him to say these things about women. And then, that compounds with more and more rappers say it. There's so many songs about where women are disrespected in hip
that
hop.
didn't start with J. Cole, so I
Of
don't
course
get that.
not. But I'm saying they're saying like if J. Cole's considered one of the good guys, and even he is doing it. Think about the guys who are considered like as woke as Cole is.
But these
They're
are
doing it
hoes, so
way
who gives a fuck
worse.
what they say?
Exactly. Like you shouldn't care, but I think the point is like if popular hip hop artists are doing this continuously, then we're kind of like not complicitly, but like implying that this is okay mindset to have within hip hop culture, right?
Do you think? All right, fuck all that. Do you think that black men are the white man of the black community? That's what I want you to answer.
No, that's crazy.
So why you don't tell these bitches that they're crazy?
I think because I know what they mean. I know that they don't mean it like explicitly. I think what they're saying is,
Well, of course they don't mean we got white skin, but they basically saying we are the people who hold back everybody in this damn community, and that ain't true. Because at the same time, they want you to protect them, but I ain't gonna protect you, bitch. If you gonna call me a white man, fuck you. And I ain't talking about mine, because
yeah,
mine would say nothing like that, because I ain't picking no Asian chaos. And that's what I implore you to do, Ian. You better not pick no Asian chaos, because your ass gonna be dealing with it for the rest of your life. I'm trying to tell
oh,
you that right now. I'm trying to tell you that right now.
uh,
If you pick a Lindsay type, you're gonna be down out here in these streets. I'm trying to tell you, man.
Lindsay be on your side. What you mean? She with you?
She better not. I see her like tweets and stuff. She ain't on my side. That bitch capping. But look,
You gotta call her B
uh,
word, bro. You gotta call out her name. She's still your friend.
okay, okay, she capping.
Yeah.
But look, it is what it is, and I ain't with all that other shit you were just talking about. I don't agree with none of that, but obviously I don't, because I got a ruling class mentality. And if you don't, then you gonna also tell them that they right, and I stand with you and all that bullshit. And and God is a woman, like Ariana said. It's just a bunch of Asian and chaos out here, and the men are too. It's sad. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, I just don't know. We in a bad place, our people, and one of the reasons is because our women are out of control, and you got to get them back in control if you want the house in control, and if you then the house being in control is basically the main building block to getting back right. So So we got a lot to do, but it ain't gonna happen in this society. It's too many people just gone. It's too many people who just want to do what they want to do, and that ain't what life is about. If you believe in the Most High, in the Word, but a lot of these people don't. It's a lot of black atheists today, and hey, it is what it is. I would never have a conversation with a black atheist because it ain't nothing to talk about. You just done. You just you got to figure it out for yourself. It ain't nothing I can say to you, but even people who believe but also talk like that kind of rhetoric you were just speaking, it's just like you obviously can't if you talking like that. I just don't. I don't really know if you know for real. So it is what it is. But you just gotta. I don't know. I just pray for these people. I pray for my people. But at the same time, like I said, it's bad. It's a bad space. That's why I can't worry about all that other shit. I ain't worried about Joe Biden. I'm not worried about Hillary Clinton. I ain't worried about Trump. I'm worried about my people. And my people lost, and and, and they ain't got no direction. And it's getting worse. It's really getting worse out here. So, but I'm glad I got mine. And then I'm just gonna build my house the way it's supposed to be, and the rest of y'all just gotta fend for y'allself. I don't know what the fuck to tell you,
Yeah,
niggas
do
out
what you
here.
gotta do. Damn,
Huh?
damn, they trying to. Ellen wants to end her talk show. They really trying to get her up out of here, bro.
Good, cause she ain't
Ellen,
good.
them like white suburbanites. They gonna be like, y'all took Ellen away from us. We love Ellen.
And,
First,
and that way, and ain't that some shit? It's her fans who turned on her. And
no, it
like,
ain't
no,
her
you
fans
are
who turn on.
best.
It's these like
No, 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 no,
it's these
no.
kids in
I
high
bet.
school who like, oh, we don't like her.
No, hush. I bet it's the same people who watch your
Hush,
show.
you hush. Go ahead.
Now you hush. You talk
What
too
were you
over too.
saying?
I bet it be the same people who watch your shit did all this talking about it, man.
Ain't no 40-year-old women who watching Ellen out here being like, she has to stop being mean. They don't care.
And
They
if
like,
you do end it good, I need more of these people to end some of this shit. I need Lena Waithe to get off everything.
I'm not. I don't like Lena Waithe. Don't does nothing wrong. She's just living her life.
Lena Waithe knew about what old boy did, and she didn't say nothing.
Who?
And I thought it was supposed to be inclusive and something like we got to
Oh,
protect women.
you talking about Mr. Mitchell?
Yeah, I love Mr. Mitch, so I don't even know if that's real or not, but I know she ain't help.
Yeah,
So
I will say this though, the way they got Jason Mitchell and Nate Parker up out of here really bums me out because those are two guys I was really big fans of.
and you know what I'm starting to think? I'm starting to think Jason Mitchell told them no to like kissing a transgender or something on that damn show because I don't believe this shit.
Wasn't that part of the story though? Wasn't it like he didn't want to do that or something? I thought that was part of it. That he
I don't
didn't want
know.
that he
I
didn't want to
don't.
like have a queer relationship. And
I
they
don't know, maybe, and it would make perfect sense because Hollywood ain't gonna let you around if you don't want to fuck no boy. Cause that's all that they doing.
I can't even say none of this.
It's the truth, bro. So you don't want to talk about nothing.
So I'm just not on board with none of this. But
Nigga, all you gotta do is look up John Podesta. That's all you need to look up. And look up Marina Abramovich and see what the fuck she be doing with Jay Z and them. I'm
goodness,
trying to tell you about these people, and I don't know why you laughing.
I can't, man. I just we'll totally different like ballparks on this one. But
I know, man. It's sad because you lost.
hey, look, agree to disagree, bro. I don't know.
No, you just agree that you lost. It ain't no disagree. You lost, motherfucker, but it's all right. Ain't no disagree.
It's so crazy.
But you had something you want to say about Gemini. I'm off all that shit. You had something you want to say about Gemini, man.
Yeah, we can get on Gemini Man. um, man, nuts. Before we get on Gemini Man, do you feel any sympathy for? No, I'm not gonna do that either. I'm not.
Nah,
I'm not.
nah,
I'm not
nah.
gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Hey, go on ask.
As
Go
I
on
said, I was
ask.
like, I don't think we need to talk
Go
about that.
on ask, man.
No, let's talk about Gemini Man.
Nah, I ain't talking about Gemini until you ask.
No, I was just saying.
No, I keep it short. I want to know.
No, I was just asking. Do you feel any sympathy towards Meg? You know, with the jokes being about her
Boy,
being
I
shot.
don't give a fuck about no damn Meg.
All right, cool. Now,
All that shit
let's
she
talk
talk
about
about
Gemini
in the
Man.
song. Nah, all that shit she talk about in the song. You
You
a
said
savage,
short. You said short.
yeah. And also, I hate that people is crushing Tory Lanez. We don't even know what the fuck happened. What if she came at that man with a heel
All right,
and
all right.
he shot the ground and it just ricocheted up? Wait, and also,
I
if
mean,
the
she got
feet
shot in
got
both feet, so he
no, wait, I
shot twice.
know. Shut up. I know, but the feet got the most bones in the body, but both of the feet. How she ain't, and she said I ain't break a bone and not on my feet. How if a bullet hit you in both your feet, you ain't break a
Bro,
bone?
look, bro. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
know the she ain't get
I'm,
shot. That
I'm
bitch
not.
just got
I'm not here
shot.
to get. I'm not here to guess. I'm not here to guess.
I guess one. I guess one for you. That
This guy
bitch
here,
lying.
bro.
That's
This
what
guy
happened.
here.
Tory shot her in self defense.
All
That's
right, all right. Uh,
and I'm gonna write an article on that too
Tor-
because I
oh
hate.
god. Oh, do you really think Tory is 5'3"? I don't think he's 5'3".
Yeah, I think he's 5'3".
I think he's short if he's 5'3". And he's dating
I'm
Meg.
like
Isn't
five
Meg like
four.
6 feet tall? Huh?
I'm like 5'4", 5'5", so it happens.
But I'm saying, isn't Meg like 6 feet tall?
No,
And they
she
like,
like 5'2".
but even then, they were dating. Like that's crazy. And she wears heels all the time.
I don't think they were dead. I think they was fucking.
Even then, that's crazy because he's so tiny. Uh, I just think that's just nuts. He come over like, "What's up, babe?" She got to bend down to kiss him. Oh my, that's crazy. I think he's like 5'7". I don't know what was that 5'3" thing. They really clowning that man. But
He like 5'3", 5'4".
I'm pretty sure he can't be that short.
Oh, Ian, I'm that short. What you talking about?
He don't look that short though. He, he's a weird looking dude. You ever look at him? Like I was watching the What's Poppin' remix. You know that song?
Yeah, he got the unit. It don't look right.
It looks strange. Hair looks weird. His like hair doesn't look like it looks fake.
It is.
I mean, yeah, I get you there, but I'm saying like it
He
just
said
looks.
it looks fake. It is fake.
He's a weird looking dude, man.
And that's why I was the unit because I know in the back of my mind it ain't real. So you know everybody else do.
Because he does have a kind of like a not like he doesn't look like you. You look like a normal person. He's a very strange human being,
So
but
he
he
look like
but he
me.
has the kind of same kind of thing where he has like the beard but no hair. I don't know why he can't
Yeah,
let the hair
yeah.
go.
He was bald. He was bald and beard like me. And then he was like, I want the unit, and it was just like, nah.
It's such a silly look because he has like because you have a good like bald head. He has a good head for being bald. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not weird shaped. It's like nice and like orbish. Got like
Most people who lose their hair early got a head for being bald. I ain't seen a person who's bald and was like, and it ain't like a choice, and they got a weird head for it. Like if you cut your hair on purpose and you bald, you might have a weird head and like, no, you need to grow your hair back out. But if you bald by like circumstance, you probably got a decent head for being bald.
sometimes I think about like white people like when they lose their hair, you really notice because they have so much of it, and like when it starts to go, it really starts to go. But also, the thing about white people is if when they lose their hair, they can hide it for a lot longer because it's so big, so they can like do style it in a certain way. Whereas black folks, when you just start losing your hair because it's so kinky, it just goes. Like you just see it immediately. You
Yeah,
know,
I remember when mine was going and I still had like some, and it looked so bad. And if it was like straight and wavy, it probably wouldn't be that bad. But it's like
yeah,
kinky and curly, so it just looks so abstract.
yeah. It was just like it just started thinning out, right?
Yeah, it started thinning out the front. And it's this dude named Trent who wrestled on AEW. He wore like a headband every time he wrestled, but he got like really long hair, like go past his shoulders, but it's receding at the front. And so like if his headband come off, like you can kind of tell, but it don't look that bad, but you know it's receding. And I'm just and white people like they can still have the long hair and it still be receding in front and it still look decent. But like if like a
Yeah,
black
because
person got
I
like
think yeah, because I think most like male movie stars have receding hairlines to some degree, but because they style in a way that like their hair flops over, it's not that bad. Like Logan Paul and like Jake Paul, they don't their hairline is definitely receding, but because the way their hair is styled, they just you'll never see their hairline. The hair just it falls over their forehead, so you just wouldn't notice that the hair is gone.
and
Um,
like if a black person got like dreads and it's receding at the front, like you can tell like a lot, you know.
but that's also a look too, because I've seen people with like their hairline is like on top of their head, but they still got really long dreads, and it's not a bad look. Looks pretty good.
It ain't the best look.
I mean, yeah, I mean, preferably you want like the J. Cole look, where it's like the hairline is like where it's always been, and the hair's long. But like,
And he got long. Yeah,
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 but J. Cole's rich,
yeah,
so I'm sure he's doing
yeah.
stuff to make sure to keep it that way.
And
Um,
it's crazy when you get long hair and your hair start receding. It's like, well, I ain't gonna cut my hair off, but it's like, so you still got the length, but at the front it's going, and it's a weird look. Like,
he's weird because
um,
because it's like Snoop Dogg, but I don't think Snoop Dogg looks weird though, because his hairline is definitely receded, but he still has the long braids.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, I guess it just depends on who you are. Because I mean, Drake's hair is starting to go. You could tell
Who?
Drake. If you look at the top of his head, you can
Oh,
tell
it
it's
ain't.
starting to go. It is.
Oh,
Look, it's no. He probably won't ever be fully bald, but it's definitely thinning on top and in the back on the crown a bit. You can see it. I've been really like keying into this recently.
well, why you see a picture of Drake head?
Look at the top of Drake's head. I forget where I saw it, but I was like, oh, his hair is like thinning at the top. It's definitely not. That's why he keeps it low because the lower you keep your hair, the less it's the harder it is to notice how much it's thinning. because my hair's thinning a bit too on top, but it's not that bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's thinning at the front of the line. And every day I'm like, is my hair? Am I losing my hair? But then it's like, but the line is there because the line's not going. It's like still really sharp on the line, but it's like just less dense. You know.
You're just losing some of the small hairs, but the main follicles are still there.
Yeah, because every once in a while I'll just get like I'll start pulling on. I was like, nah, I got a full handful here, but there's just less of it. It's like I can feel like it's not as dense as it was. And I asked my doctor, I was like, am I losing my hair? He's like, nah, it looks fine to me. He's like, I can tell it's just not as thick as it once used to be, but it's not like falling out, which is it'll probably go at some point.
That's kind of hilarious that you starting to think.
Hmm?
That's kind of hilarious.
No, I mean it's definitely funny, but and I don't have facial hair to like make up for it. But who knows? Who knows where time will go?
Yeah, you gotta grow. You gotta get your goatee going.
Yeah. I cut all my hair off recently. I was like, my hair's thinning. I'll just cut it all off and I'll just be cool with it. And I cut it all off and it looked fine. I was like, it doesn't even look it's thinning. It's like all the follicles. I was brushing it, had the waves going, and then it just when it starts to get real thick, like it's starting to get now with the fro, you can just feel like it's not as thick as it used to be. But it's still only I notice it. If I asked someone else and they was like, it felt my hair, they was like, it feels the same all the way through. It's just like it's a very tiny difference.
You know how I knew Hollywood was bullshit when they tried to make a story about Black liberation, uh, the bad part, and a story about like equality and holding hands with white people, the good part. I'm like, Ryan Coogler, you fucking sheep.
What are you talking about?
They tried to make Black Panther like they tried to basically tell us in a subliminal way, hey, black people, don't get together and take over this world by yourselves. Come together with whites and share all your wealth with us, and be equal. And Killmonger's bad for wanting black liberation with all his people, and T'Challa's good because he's a bitch, and he need the white CIA agent to help him fight, and he's the good guy, and black liberation is bad. And we fell for that shit. I ain't fucking with Black Panther.
I don't think that's what they were saying. I mean, the end of the movie, he's more on Killmonger's side than he was at the beginning.
Oh, he ain't. Because Killmonger said we finna kill all these
But
niggas.
Killmonger said we need to open our doors. We can't just be so isolated.
Killmonger also said I'm finna arm all of our people and we're gonna take back all of this country. I don't see him taking over the United States. That movie some bullshit, but a lot of them are. Just think about that. They really made Killmonger the bad guy. And what none he's saying was bad.
I mean, he was talking about you know, like ruling through dictatorship.
And that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Okay.
White people been doing it for centuries, and look how it turned out for them.
Yeah, but you don't want to just be what white people are.
I don't want to be white people. I want to be better, and I am. So we should be ruling.
When you gonna get your Dreamer Pumas? 'Cause I'm finna cop soon.
I keep seeing pictures, and they get worse every time I look at them.
Really?
I'll be like, hey, that's kind of ugly now.
He has an older shoe. Have you seen the black and white colorway of him?
I don't want to see any more of them.
The black and white colorway looks really nice. I
I,
would I
oh,
would, I
oh
would
no,
prefer
no,
that because I
I don't
know.
want you to. No, I don't want you to get past it. Tell me why they tried to make black liberation a bad thing.
I don't think they did. I think the point they were making was Killmonger was like corrupted by like American imperialism, and that's why he wasn't fit to rule Wakanda. And then, but his influence was important because he had an outside influence on like the kind of national isolationism of Wakanda. So the ending of the movie where they're like opening their doors to like allowing other black people to. That's why it ends with him in Oakland opening up his own like ambassadorship there with other black kids, so like to show that this is possible and help them out. Killmonger did help. He was like, with Killmonger, he was like, you doing too much. You trying to destroy the world. You trying to take over the world. But you're right about we need to be more open about how we use this technology and be stewards to other black people around the world. You know,
But that ain't all he was saying.
it isn't. But that I mean, at the end of the day, he was killing people in Wakanda and trying to get
No, he want to kill people in Wakanda because Wakanda started fighting back,
but he was trying to arm black militias around the world.
and that's what you're supposed to do.
I think the point they're trying to make is like maybe we don't need to be at war with the rest of
I think
the world.
what they're trying to make is listen to the white CIA agent and then be good with
Come
all
on,
of us.
that's not. No.
I ain't vibing around after thinking about that, man. I don't like that, man. I'm sad that, and I can only imagine what Hollywood got him doing. He probably fucking kids too.
I'm excited for Black Panther 2 because I think that movie's gonna rule. So
You think Ron Coogler fucking kids too?
I don't think so.
If they say he got to fuck some kids, he fucking some kids, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
If they say that, then I'm gonna be working for IFC Films for the rest of my life because I'm not.
I'm not going to Hollywood. Fuck all that, because they gonna try to get you up out of here if you ain't doing it.
Hey, you know what bugs me when people be like, J. Cole's mixtapes are better than his albums? I'm like, shut up.
But there's a legit argument that they are.
There isn't. Because all you gotta do is be like, when did you first hear him? When I was 16. I'm like, that's why you like it so much. Shut up. They heard it when they was young and they had no issues and they was like, oh, these make me feel like the world can be mine. And then ever since, they grown now, so they're listening to it and they're like, well, this don't make me feel the way that made me feel. It's like, yeah, of course not. You're a grown man. Find some value in like your friendships and your relationships. Like, don't put all your life in music. And the reason why they don't hold Kendrick to that standard is because they heard Kendrick and they was like, because they couldn't relate to Kendrick, so they just look at it as like an intellectual piece of work. But whereas with J. Cole, they're like, oh, like that music I felt in my soul, so therefore this is the best of it, which is it's just nuts to me. I think people have such shitty taste, and that makes me such an elitist, but I just think they do, especially when it comes to music.
Um,
Oh wait, before we do anything else, I was thinking like, what music could I just be like bumping all the time? I was like J. Cole, Earl Sweatshirt, Boogie, because I listened to Everything for Sale last night. Fucking next level. Silent Ride is like one of the best songs, one of my favorite songs, period. And Big Crit. Like those are the four I'm like, if I have nothing else for the rest of my life, those would be enough. You have like guys like that who you just listen to forever.
Drake,
Anybody else?
Benny the Butcher.
Any R&B or anything? I was trying to think like R&B. I was like, Rihanna? Nah, I don't like enough of her music, even though I do love Anti. Ari
Uh,
Lennox ain't got enough music out. SZA,
Arliss ain't got no good music out.
SZA, I only like Control. I haven't really dived into Z. I think that's what it was called.
I listen to Control like every day.
It is a pretty great album, but also it's just like I need them to have a lot of work and like a lot of it that I like, and I like most of Earl's stuff. I like pretty much all the Boogie stuff that I've heard. I love most of Crit stuff. He got like stuff for days, and I love Cole stuff. He got stuff for days as well. So a lot of variety as well. I think I hit signing sneakers. All right, we'll talk about Gemini Man or what?
Um, yeah, that's on you.
Yeah, I want to talk about it.
Hey, but did you see what Jonathan Isaac said?
I don't know who that is.
He's a basketball player. You know, all the basketball players, the season started back, and every time before the game starts, all of them kneel together and they lock arms,
Mm-hmm.
and they wear the Black Lives Matter shirt.
Oh yeah,
Jonathan
I saw
Isaac,
that.
he plays for the Magic, and he chose to stand for the national anthem without a Black Lives Matter shirt. And he says, Isaac says, racism isn't the only thing that plagues in society, and that there are other things. He says the answer is the gospel. Isaac says it's important to get past skin color. Jonathan Isaac said he believed Black Lives Matter, and he says kneeling and wearing a T-shirt don't go hand in hand with Black lives. And he just stood, and a lot of people saying that they respect it, and there's literally no reason to be mad at that. And props to him. A lot of people in
Are
the
these
comments,
black people or white people?
you might probably all these white people.
Okay, null and void.
The only thing I don't necessarily get is the it's important to get past skin color. The rest of it, yeah, I agree. It's other things plaguing our society. The answer is gospel, but y'all ain't trying to hear that. And kneeling and wearing a t-shirt ain't gonna change shit. So I understand that completely.
Did you find that picture of Drake?
I looked up a picture of Drake. I don't know if it's the one you talking about, but his hair looks completely full to me.
I mean, he has a great head of hair, no doubt about it, and I'm sure he's doing a lot to make sure he keeps it that way. Little Drake hair. All right, so if you look at a picture of Drake, you can see at the temple, like on the sides, it's kind of thin in there. At the top, at the front of the line, you see what I'm saying?
I imagine.
Where he used to get the part, and if you look on top, it's like very faint. But you can
Well, he got a fade.
well, no, he got the fade to the side, but you can tell where it starts at that front there. It's probably just receding in that moment. I get it.
Nah, man, nah. I think that's everybody, bro.
I don't think so. Because
Everybody got that little part at the. I mean, like in the same area, but everybody got some parts at the front where it's like that. But it don't mean your hair fading.
no, it's just
It just
like his hairline is maturing, so it's just kind of like receding back a bit, but it's not like going.
his hairline's still there.
No, the hairline is there, but I'm saying like there's less hair in those points, and it's on both.
Man, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. That man ain't balling nowhere, man.
I'm not saying he's balding. I'm just saying he's just like his hair's going in a few places, but that's because he's getting older.
No,
I mean, you'll see that on everybody. That's not a thing to worry about. I'm just saying.
I'm worried. I'm just saying I don't see it.
All right, bro. All right, bro.
But get these Gemini Man shit, cause don't nobody talk about this movie no more.
Damn. So I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about. I think the podcast was right after, like a month or two after Gemini Man had already came out, so it was last year, and they were talking about it in conjunction with The Irishman, which they had just seen in a theater. It was in there, and they live in New York. I was on, but one of the guys said he was talking about it in conjunction with the movie After Earth, where After Earth, the kind of metatextual idea of it is like Will Smith being like, I'm getting too old to be a movie star. Jaden, this is how you got to do it. And you need to take the baton and become like the new Smith movie star, right? And then Jaden Smith essentially rejecting that and never doing a movie again after that. And being like, Dad, I don't want to have your career. I don't want to be in movies. I just want to make weird hip hop and skateboard, you know? And then he said he put that next to Gemini Man saying the metatextual thing about Gemini Man is like Will Smith looking at a younger version of himself and being like, all the shit that I went through to get to this place, to like all the sacrifices I made, don't do it. Just go have fun, be a young person. You don't need to be like me. You know what I'm saying? Like this life is hard to get to where I am, to be this good at my job. Just be your own person, you know. You should, kind of like talking to himself in the past tense. Um, and so part of my issue with what you were talking about earlier before the podcast, where you were saying like the guy you watched the video who was talking about Gemini Man, where he
Shout
felt
out the film Mento. It's the Anatomy of a Failure
yeah
series.
his issue with like he thinking the film should have been about a man confronting like the sins of his past or whatever. To me, that movie isn't about that at all. To me, Gemini Man is about an older man
Well,
looking.
wait. Well, of course it isn't because he said it ain't, and that's the bad part.
But I'm saying like what I think is really interesting about the movie is that it's not him being like facing like the sins of his past and having to overcome like old demons by killing a younger self or whatever. It's more about like you have my face, you have my thoughts, and you don't have any of the things that held me back. You don't have to follow in my footsteps. You can be your own person. You can be better than me. And kind of looking at the next generation of like that's why the movie ends with like when Will says to do he's like if you pull that trigger you're gonna be uh living with that or dreaming it for the rest of your life. And then he shoots him for him. He's like, but I've already been there. I'm the guy who has to live with that pain and that trauma and the thought of what I did. And you can be better than what I ever was, which is I think a lot more interesting of a movie. I agree with him. Like I think the action is second to none. I think the catacombs fight scene is one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
He also says it's poorly lighted, and that's to hide the fact that the CGI is so bad
That's I
because that catacomb scene is poorly lit and you can't see anything.
you crazy. I saw that. I guess it depends on what format you see it in. I saw it 60 frames per second in 3D. Fucking, it looked amazing. I saw everything. And
Okay.
that movie doesn't work if it's not in the proper format. I wish I could have saw it in the optimum format, which is like 120 frames per second in 3D, which probably would have made it look amazing.
If a movie got to work in a certain format, it ain't gonna work at all.
I disagree because I think for anybody to be like, but the story is this, the story is that. The movie is essentially about the form. It's not about the text of the stuff. If you go into that movie being like, I want this movie to be a great narrative exploration about theme and all this nonsense, you're gonna leave disappointed because that's not what that movie is about or what it's made to explore. The movie was about like, can we take this kind of genre premise that's kind of a skeletal in terms of like the characterization and the storytelling, and like the specifics of the world really, and then we fill it with movie stars to add the charm of it. Because like the thing that works about Gemini Man is none of those characters on the page really work as characters. They're not real people. But what gives them the heft is what like a true movie star movie is. Will Smith being as good as he is gives his character so much depth. Same with Elizabeth Winstead. Same with Benedict Wong. Same with Clive Owen. all that is done with because of their persona and because of who we recognize them as and how good they are at what they do. Um, Will Smith's such a good actor, and that's part of it as well. Two, like I said, it's the genre premise just to get to the point where we can do these things. And three, the point is watching it in the desired format. I probably will never watch Gemini Man again unless they re-release it in theaters in the way that you know intended. Probably never will, but I hope so. Because I remember watching that movie. I'm only talking about this because we're coming up on the year anniversary when it was released. But I remember watching that movie for the first time. The first 20 minutes, I was like, "This looks odd. I can't even take it's the way it's shot, the way it's framed. I can't even like get my bearings for the first like half hour. I was like, is this bad? Do I not like this? And then once the action started, I was like, that's what they were doing. It looks fake because the way it looks fake and not well done because of they have to do it in a certain way to maximize how the format is you explore it on screen. I think if you look at it objectively, like, oh, but the action is so well done, but you can't see it, that's crazy because what you're doing is you're looking at it in a way it's not intended. So therefore, it's gonna look wrong. But if you look at it in the proper format, it's extraordinary. I mean, I didn't even see it in the best format, and it still looked amazing. I was watching movies like I've never seen anything like this on the screen before. It really blew my mind. I was like so hyped when I walked out the theater. I think the final shootout looks amazing. I think because you didn't see it in 3D, did you?
No.
Oh man, you should have saw it in 3D. It looks next level. It's one of the best looking things I've ever seen on a big screen. Every once in a while, I'll take off the glasses. I'm like, this can't be real. Like, I'll look at it normally. Like, yeah, I can see how this could be not great if you don't have the proper format. But with the 3D, with the 60 frames per second, it looks, ooh, beautiful. Um, so there's all that.
You know, you said something earlier that was before this conversation I thought was interesting. You was talking about the conversation surrounding certain industries. You was talking about movies and how people talk about movies, and it made me think about how people talk about wrestling, right? And
Yeah.
right now, it's very bad. Like people wait for after Wednesdays when AEW NXT go off. There are people who literally wait online on Twitter for the ratings to come out, who have more views, who have the better demos, and I find myself even waiting sometimes for it. And then you just see all these people. You got trolls who just say like, another win for the good guys in Raw and SmackDown. AEW ain't pulling in those numbers, and then people be like, but they beat NXT, and they'll be like, but NXT is WWE's the third brand, so is that really good? And then be like, you just mad because don't nobody watch NXT, but old people. Man, it just goes back and forth. It's a very toxic community, the wrestling fandom, and it's very tiresome. And I just be like, man, this thing I love, I hate to talk about it, like, or at least I hate the conversations around it because it's never good. It's never about the wrestling or about the product or the promotion. It's about this bad stuff, and it ain't even everybody, but it's so loud. The few who do that, it kind of represents the entire thing, right? And
Mhm.
then you have somebody like Jim Cornette, who's like a staple in wrestling, and he was like, man, I just saw a commercial where it was like LeBron speaking at the I Promise School, and then he like transitioned to Megan Rapinoe speaking. And I was just like, man, that's exactly what ESPN trying to do.
Mhm.
A gay white woman standing next to a black man, and they equal. But anyway, I just saw it, and I'm like, man, that
Okay.
is that is fucking ridiculous. But anyway,
Mhm.
I saw Jim Cornette. He has a podcast where he like lambasts a lot of wrestling today, and he's part of the old school that thinks like, wrestling today is a bunch of flips and dives, and there's no psychology and there's no storytelling. You hear guys like the Undertaker who had a candid conversation recently, and he was like, yeah, he wish he could see more like in ring storytelling, like working over limbs and and stop doing all the flips and the dives and saving that for like big pay per view matches, and it'll have more importance if you save it. It'll do it every match, and then there's some people like that really hate AEW because a lot of their matches have the flips and the dives, and you just hear this old guy Cornette who like has a really big following, and
Mhm.
a lot of people, and he hates Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega's considered like one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world, and he hates him. He calls him jazz hands, and he hates his style. He hates AEW and he hates the Young Bucks because all they do is super kicks, and there ain't no psychology. It's just a bunch of moves, and they call it like gymnastics wrestling, and you have this really toxic community, and it's almost akin to, and when you talked about that with the movies, it took me to wrestling because because I don't talk about movies a lot with people, but I see a lot of wrestling conversations, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all kind of the same. I mean, you'll find one that's different. And you'll be like I found one. It's the in ring Psycho Babble as like a YouTube page, and it's two brothers, and they just talk about wrestling every week, and it's really refreshing because it's like it ain't mean spirited for the most part. It's just like, well, we'll see how this go, and I know y'all don't like that kind of style, or I know we don't particularly like this kind of style, but we know y'all do, and that's okay. It's that kind of talk, and it's so refreshing. Um, and I was thinking about what you said about like Gemini Man being watched in a certain way, and it took me wrestling again. That's why I told this long story because like Cornette and them hate that style of wrestling where like if it's a tag team match, they just get in the ring and the ref stops counting, and it just kind of becomes like a big sequence, and it ain't like you you don't have a tag rope and you're not doing the rules. And you got like FTR who comes in and they're all about like old school traditional wrestling. And so they use the tag rope and they do the tag, and it's very much rules oriented. And I can't lie, I really enjoyed it, and I like the storytelling myself. But at the same time, I do love the like car crash style of wrestling where it's just like a bunch of moves, and it looked very choreographed. It just looked like a sequence. It's very athletic, and you see these guys are like really athlete and are real athletes. And I really hate when people like down wrestling because athletes couldn't do it. Like Lawrence Taylor back in the day was a world class football player. He did a wrestling match against Bam Bam Bigelow at a WrestleMania. He said it's worse than any football game he's ever played. He was exhausted afterwards, and it's a real thing, and not everybody can do it. And those are real athletes. But anyway, that's a side story. But Jim Cornette hates this style of wrestling, and it's such a following. I get it. He comes from an old way of thinking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that wrestling is one way. Like professional wrestling is storytelling. It's the psychology of a match and working over a body part and things like, and you're telling a story between the ropes, and you got a promo and things of that nature. And he hates that new style. And his whole thing would be um if you expect people like to watch this thing, it needs to be a certain way, right? And well, basically, it would be you can't expect people to watch this in a certain way because to him that way ain't good. And you know what I'm saying? And basically, that's what I'm getting with Gemini Man. I made that parallel in my mind. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
if it ain't gonna be good in every form you watch it, then you did something wrong to me. If I can't enjoy it the same as you enjoy it in 3D or whatever it was in, or like a 180 or whatever, or 480K or HD or whatever the fuck it is, if it's not enjoyable in each one, then something's wrong because everybody's not gonna go see it in there. And you have to make a product that everybody can see, which is why I love AEW and I hate the criticism. Because even if you don't like that style of wrestling that the Young Bucks do. For every Young Bucks, there's a FTR who gives you the old school like Four Horsemen style of wrestling with like Arn and Tully, and it's like all tag ropes, and it's all like it's psychology, all that kind of stuff. You got Cody Rhodes who do the same stuff, and then you got your Kenny Omega who's like the best bout machine. He'll give you like the 20-25 minute classics, and then you got the Pentagon and the Phoenix and the Lucha Bros, and they'll give you like the card, and they'll give you like the Lucha Libre style of wrestling, right? And they give you some of everything. So like even if there's stuff you don't like about it, and that's just and some of those matches I kind of get like I'll be like, hey, that's a little bit too lenient with the rules. And then FTR have a match, and I'm like, it's perfect. Everybody has their thing. You can find something about AW you like in every style of match. A lucha libre match. You got women's wrestling. You got your standard American wrestling. You got your old school '80s like mid Atlantic South wrestling. You got your car crash style of wrestling. You got your hardcore matches. You have everything. In WWE, it doesn't do that because they force you to wrestle in one way. They force you to talk in one way, and they force you to like sell and everything in one way. AW gives so many options that like even if Cornette doesn't like the Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros or whatever, you can still watch FTR versus like Butcher and the Blade, and it's old school like psychology and storytelling, and it's all there, and it gives every fan something to like. And WWE has never ever done it, at least not in like the last 20-25 years. So I'll be like, yeah, like I get your criticism. I kind of get it too. I kind of agree with it at certain points. But at the same time, I do like that style of wrestling. But also, if I didn't, I'm still getting the other style too, so it's fine. But with Gemini Man, to bring this point home, if I can't watch it in any kind of format, like how I watched it and you watched it might be completely different. If that's the case, it's a movie. It ain't like wrestling. It ain't like three or four different styles. It's the same movie. If it's not gonna be the same quality in one that it is in the other, then I think you failed somewhere. And you can't expect you can't tell people like you gotta go see this in 3D. Like, what is it, a 3D movie? Because there are movies that say I'm 3D and like you need to watch it in this, but they didn't they didn't explicitly say that, and that wasn't marketed. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you can just watch this and it's great. Well, if that's the case, it needs to look the same in every format. And I don't mean like in the 3D form, where like it's coming at you. But if it genuinely looks worse, like not the same, it's almost like a video game in terms of like if it's on the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4, that ain't it. Like it can't be that because it's the movie. It's a singular experience like all the way throughout. It has to be the same every time, and so that's why I disagree with what you were saying. And you was like, "Oh no, it looks great," and you're like, "Da da da." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it might look great to you. To me, it didn't look that great, and the lighting was bad and all that stuff." And it was like,
You
I
should
didn't
have
watch it.
saw it in the heightened frame rate in 3D.
I don't. If I have to do that, I just feel like you did something wrong.
So that's part of the conversation around movies I talk about. Right? Uh, this notion of like, well, movie should be this, or this movie was a failure because it didn't do this is to me incorrect. At that point, you're judging a movie based on what you think it should have been versus what it is.
Well, I'll tell you this: what it is not good because nobody saw it.
I mean, that doesn't count for anything. Whether people saw it or not does not mean it's.
Yeah,
I mean, a Joker made a
nobody.
billion dollars. That doesn't mean it's a better movie than Little Women. You know,
Yeah, but people also saw Little Women. So
that's true. I mean, very few people saw The Hurt Locker. That
nobody
doesn't
saw
mean that's not a great
nobody
movie.
saw Gemini. And I'm not saying that like people going to see is the only thing. I'm just saying if don't nobody like it and it's universally hated, then
I don't. It's not universally hated though.
you the only person that like it.
No, there's plenty of people who like that movie.
And I like it actually. I'm just saying they got plenty of problems.
No, without a doubt, it has plenty of problems. I'm in the bag for the goofy Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid. I cannot talk. Metal Gear Solid esque-ness of it, because as I was watching, I was thinking this feels like Metal Gear Solid with the
Yeah, and I
clone.
don't like movies that feel like a video game.
But here's the thing: people love Metal Gear Solid, and they love Metal Gear Solid because of the wacky storytelling. So it's like it's one you buy into, one you don't. I get it. Gamers are different. Video games have a different, thing that they're doing. But yeah, it felt very much like a Metal Gear Solid movie to me. Um, Look, I think recently, now more than ever, um, we've kind of, and I think I talked with you about this before about how we've kind of narrowed the kind of definition with all this information at our fingertips with the internet and all this. People more and more seem to narrow the definition of what good film and good cinema is. And like I think about someone like David Lynch, and I'm like, would David Lynch have a career now? Because his stuff is so strange. Even the stuff more
No,
new.
no, no. He'd be too weird, and that's what I was saying. I ain't mean to cut you off, but that's what I was saying. Like people are narrowing what is good wrestling, and I just don't agree with that because one of the best matches was Kitty and Hangman versus the Young Bucks, and they did kind of that kind of like we're gonna follow the rules, but like not really kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's one of the best tag matches I've seen maybe in my life. And that's the thing. It's like not just because it ain't the way that it was don't mean it's bad. Now some of it is bad, but then again, some of that old school stuff was bad. All of those matches weren't great, and I do think we romanticize the past a lot in sports, movies, wrestling, and everything. We just think that if it's old, it's better. And I will say, for the most part, to me, in my opinion, it is. But there is a lot of bad that came out during that time in wrestling and movies and sports and everything. And just because it came out in '85 or '92 don't mean it's better than 2020. A lot of the wrestling today is better than a lot of that stuff back then, in my opinion. But then you like if you watch a Brett Shawn match from back then, it ain't no contest like with the
No.
stuff today. Like the stuff today just don't measure up because that's like the pinnacle of wrestling, at the psychology and the moves and the athleticism and everything. And then you watch stuff today, and I'm like, man, these guys are so athletic now, and they're not like out of shape, and they take care of their bodies and they eat better. Like everything is so like crisp and fluid, but at the same time, a lot of the selling is gone and a lot of psychology is gone, so you don't get that as well. But when you have a company that gives you all of it, that's why I love AEW. It gives me everything I need, but back to your point, I just have to say that real quick. I do think people are trying to do the same thing with wrestling as you do with as you're saying they're doing with movies, and I just think it's in poor taste because you can have multiple ways to do something and it's still good as long as it's a good product. Then it's fine. Like, and I guess some people will say, well, if you're not obeying the rules of the wrestling ring, how is it good? I would just show them the Hangman and Kenny match versus the Young Bucks. That's the pinnacle of what that style of wrestling can be, and that's better than 90% of the matches that came out back in the day.
Hmm. Um,
But that's
I mean, I was talking about David Lynch. Even his more narratively minded stuff earlier on in his career is still very strange and very nonsensical, and also very problematic if you were to look at it now. The way he treats women in some of those stories are real,
but
real.
you love Mulholland Drive.
Huh?
You love Mulholland Drive.
I do not. I don't care for it. But
I might get that on Criterion to be honest with you.
I mean, it was on what was it? The BBC. It was number one ranked film of the 21st century, ranked by
Yeah.
filmmakers.
Oh, people
From,
love that
from
movie.
from around the world. Yeah, people like that's considered one of the greatest films of all time. So I'm in the minority for sure on that one. Um, but you know, you think if you watch, have you seen Blue Velvet?
No, I ain't seen Eraserhead either.
I mean, I would say watch Blue Velvet, but because that's probably his most accessible one, and it's great. But you watch that movie, and you think like, man, like he would not get away with treating his female characters like this these days, because the way he treats Isabella Rossellini is rough in that movie, real bad.
What do you do?
None. She just kind of it's a the main character like sneaks into her dressing room and watches her undress, and then there's a later on in the movie when Dennis Hopper shows up and he's really abusive to her, and then she like loses her mind and like runs around naked at like a dinner party. She's like asking the main character to like protect her and hold her and have sex with her or something. It's crazy. It's a great movie though. You should definitely watch it. But all I'm saying is, I think I think part of what that video you mentioned on Gemini Man, like this notion of like, oh, it has to be a good narrative, the characters have to be good, and there has to be development, yada yada. And it's kind of really uninteresting way in which to view cinema. Like Gemini Man is doing very specific things what Gemini Man needs to do. The script isn't great. I would say the script is very much of its time.
Yeah, but you can't just
No, no,
say
no.
because it's
That's what I'm saying. The script is kind of a functional '90s thriller with like a weird kind of wacko genre element thrown in, right? And with like kind of some kind of broad, not really broad, like thematic ties to like pull it all together. It's not bad. I just don't think it's like amazing, right? It's not American Beauty, which is like an amazing script, but I don't think it needs to be. I don't think it calls for it to be. And I also think the movie's aim was to do something very specific with format, with the visual language of film, and how to photograph certain types of visual elements and how to heighten a certain sense of reality and tangibility on the screen. And I think if you go to it with like this is essentially if you look at Gemini Man as a what am I trying to say? The problem is that Gemini Man was targeted at like this is an action film with interesting camera techniques and forward thinking, visual technology. Whereas I think of Gemini Man as like an art film with a very commercial mainstream premise. And if you look at it through that lens, it's extremely successful in terms of like because that movie is about set pieces. It's about like how do we make these set pieces feel as real and as vital and as immediate as possible, and that the stuff that ties it together will be the kind of charm and the pure acting ability of like these movie stars on screen, and the broad kind of specifics of the plot are just means of tying these set pieces together, and I think it really works really well. And I think people aren't willing to engage with it on that level. One, because of the marketing. two, because it's a Will Smith movie and people just don't take those seriously as serious pieces of cinema, and three because
But I wish you took them seriously.
and three because it's like kind of a silly action movie with a weird silly premise, and when you go into that with those kind of expectations, you're not able to engage on the level of what the movie is trying to do. Versus if I showed someone, like think about The Irishman, right? I think that's a great movie. I think it's an amazing, amazing movie. But people were not mean and they weren't as down on the visual effects in that movie because they take Martin Scorsese seriously, and they say what he makes is serious art, and it's not something to be scoffed at, and it's something to be looked at as a step forward in like the direction of film in like film culture or whatever. So people look at like some of the de aging is dodgy in here, but we can overlook that because what Scorsese is doing behind the scenes and what he's doing here and here and
But
here.
that's a way better movie
Yeah,
than
it's a better movie, but I think people were giving that the benefit of the doubt more. Like people being like,
and the
well,
CGI nowhere near as bad in Irishman and Gemini Man.
I would argue that the
I
effects on
think you
Junior,
could
I,
make
I would argue that the effects on Junior and Gemini Man are far less distracting than the effects in The Irishman.
I think you're just making haphazard excuses.
No, I'm not. I'm saying like if part of your issue with The Irishman, if part of your issue with Gemini Man is like, but the visual effects aren't that great and they're trying to hide
Also,
it.
part of my issue with Gemini Man is it's a bad story too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If that's look, say it's a bad story. If part of your issue is like the effects are bad, but you wouldn't say the same thing about Scorsese. I just look.
Because the effects ain't that bad.
I think look. I think the effects in The Irishman are good, and I think they are not. I think the effects in Gemini Man, on average, are much more convincing than the ones in The Irishman. To me,
I think you're trying to make a point that don't exist.
I'm not trying to make a point that don't exist. I think people are too kind of like regimented and like because of what they expect out of a movie, they don't or aren't willing to engage with on what it's trying to do. I don't think Ang Lee was trying to make the best action movie with the most compelling plot ever. What he was doing is like, give me this really interesting like premise and give me great movie stars who can fill out what these kind of like Bayer characters and fill them out with the charm and the kind of history that's needed with like really riveting performances, which they do, especially Will Smith. And I'm going to use this as a means of like using these movie stars to carry the lifting of the plot, and then I'm going to do my best to explore how to frame and explore these action premises to like their to the best of their potential with this new technology. And that's what he does. And I think if you look at it in that way, it's a success. But if you go
But,
into
but, but,
but if you
but
go into it saying, I want this to be like
why do I
as
need to look at it? No,
no,
I
no.
can look at
Listen,
it
to what I'm saying. If
well.
you go,
Hold
Nate,
on.
no, because this is the difference. When you say like the movie was written in 1998, they say I want this movie to be as fun and as well made and as like interesting and has as good world building and as good chemistry between the actors as like The Mask of Zorro, which is an amazing movie, right? But Gemini Man can't be The Mask of Zorro because that's not what it's trying to do. And people are looking at it in the same way and want it to accomplish similar things, which is not the aim of the movie.
You can like that movie and do all that without changing without changing the questions for all other movies. Every other movie asks the same thing. Is it good and does it make sense? And if it don't answer those questions, then it just ain't that to
But
a
but,
lot
but,
of
but
people.
we would agree that like the Mask of Zorro being like a masterpiece, right? Put that next to Goodfellas, which is also a masterpiece, are doing very different things, and you would not judge them along the same criteria. The rubric for it being a successful version of what it is not the same between Goodfellas and the Mask of Zorro. Because
No, no, no,
because
no,
in
no.
Goodfellas you don't need
No,
great
no, no,
action,
no.
but in Mask
It's
of
still
Zorro you
no,
need great
no,
action.
no, no, no. It's still a story at the end of the day. You can judge it empirically like everything else. I'm not changing the conversation for Gemini Man
But Nate,
just to give it a chance to be
I'm not.
considered
Look,
good.
I'm not
If it
doing
ain't
that.
good, the
Listen to
shit
what I'm
ain't good.
saying. Listen to what I'm saying.
No, you listen to what I'm saying. If it ain't good, the shit just ain't good to a lot of
Nate,
people,
Nate,
bro.
what's a
And that's
what's
what
a,
it
what's
is.
a good action movie, man?
It's a good action movie to me is Mad Max.
Mad Max Fury Road. What's a good drama, Nate?
What's a good drama I like? What I like? Dang, dang. I guess Casino. That be considered a drama?
Yeah, it's considered a drama.
Yeah, I guess that.
If you were to base if you were to say Mad Max Fury Road is only successful by the means by which Casino is successful, Mad Max Fury Road is a failure of a movie because Mad Max Fury Road doesn't have the depth of
Well, who would
character.
say it's only?
But
You said only.
that's not what I'm saying. You saying I'm not gonna change the conversation about what
I
makes
didn't
it a
say
movie.
only. I just said don't change it. Is it a good movie or not? I ain't say only. It could have other things that make it good that don't make
What
Casino good.
and that's my point with Gemini Man. I'm
But
saying
it
like
ain't
the things
only.
the
You
things
said
that
only.
I said the things in Gemini Man that make it quote unquote bad are there, right? There are issues. What I'm saying is if you go into it with like I said, people want Gemini Man
I'm
to be
saying it's still a movie though.
people are comparing Gemini Man to John Wick, and it's
It's
not.
a movie though. It's a movie at the end of the day. You
But
can't
you would
compare it.
but
It's a
you
movie.
but you wouldn't compare Gemini Man to Ladybird.
You might. It's a movie. They both movies. I think you're just trying to make
Nah,
excuses
bro,
for
you
it.
ain't even engaging what I'm trying to say. If look, if you
Because
put
it's
if
nonsensical.
all right, Casino next to Mad Max Fury Road, they're both good movies, right?
Yeah.
Isn't what make each of them good different from what makes the other one good?
Yeah.
Because we understand that Mad Max Fury Road is not trying to do what Casino is trying to do, and
True.
Casino is not trying to do what Mad Max Fury Road is trying to do. So you
But they're
wouldn't say,
still
so you
movies.
would you
But
wouldn't
they're
you,
still
so you
movies.
so you wouldn't say Casino.
But they're still
No,
movies.
but if I asked you, is Casino what could Casino do better at? You would not say it could have better car chases. And if I ask you what could Mad Max do better at, you say, well, it could be better at exploring. It could be better at exploring the kind of mechanics of the world that it's in.
It could.
That could be a critique of it, but that's not a thing that people use to disqualify because they
And
understand that's not the aim of the
you're not,
movie.
you're not making sense. You're not making sense.
What are you talking about? If the Mad Max Fury Road, the aim of the movie is not to explore that world sufficiently. It's about this specific incident that we're following. So you understand going in, like based on what they've set up for us, we are not here to expect that this is a story about the world of Mad Max. This is a story about Mad Max and this specific incident in this world. So a thing like Gastown and Bullet Town are things that exist that we could explore, but we don't need to because that's not pertinent to the narrative that's being told. Right?
They still movies, bro. And you can judge them the same way. Are they made for different things, and do they have different things going for them? Yes. At the end of the day, it's still a movie, and I can say if the story ain't good, and that could be on purpose if the story ain't good. I mean, George Miller, he didn't even they said that they didn't even write a script. It was just all storyboards because their story was being told through the action in the cars. So while it ain't a traditional script story, the story's still there. So you can still judge the story and put it up against a casino that actually has a script. It's still the same stuff. Movies at the end of the day is just storytelling. You telling the story. So I can judge it the same way. Now, one might have more visual effects than the other, and one might be more character oriented than the other. But at the end of the day, I can still make the claim: is this a good movie? Is the story concise and logical, and all that stuff? And does it look good? Things of that nature. The music good. You can still make all these claims. I don't know why you're capable of Gemini Man like this. You don't even have to do this. That's what I don't understand.
Well, I'm trying. I'm not necessarily capable of Gemini Man. I think there's sufficient problems that it has and that people can bring up and that are valid and make sense. What I'm saying is the conversation around Gemini Man and specifically around like film culture as a whole is I'm not sure what the criteria is by which people are judging things, and I'm not sure people know what they want. People, I think more and more now, and probably less so with film critics, more so with kind of the kind of more sophisticated film audience, so like the more sophisticated amateur cinephile type, is that what they want out of a movie isn't to enjoy it. And I don't think that a movie needs to be great, needs to be enjoyable to be a great movie. I don't think a movie needs to have uh, understandable plot to be a great movie. And I don't think a movie needs to be consistently engaging to be a great movie, right? Like a movie like I wrote about on the site on Tap In. Shout out, bring it full circle. I wrote about the movies like Someone in Love. The first time I saw it, I love the movie from the front, from the jump. But the movie ends in a place where nothing resolves, and it feels incomplete. The first time I saw it, I was like, "How does the movie end there? We don't know what happens to the girl. We don't know what happens to her boyfriend, to the professor. It just ends, and it's so abrupt, and it just kind of cuts everything out, and you just feel like, oh, I just wasted so much time because all the stuff they set up, nothing happened because there was no resolution to the story. But then you realize you understand the context of who the filmmaker is, what he values in his stories, and what he's exploring. Hold on a second. What? What? I'll get to it. She wants me to get the mail. But what he values in the narratives he's telling is not necessarily plot consistency, not necessarily what the story has to be. I went to Jackson today and pick them up food. I've been out here all day, and then as soon as the sun goes down, they want me to go pick up the mail. They've been in this house all day. They do this all the time. It makes me so angry. I'm like, why? I'm gonna get the mail, but you should have got it early if you needed it that bad. Uh, fucking shit, bro. I'll get it at midnight. It don't matter. I'm gonna get it, but you had time to get it, so that's on you. She's gonna get mad now. Now she cursing. Um, when you know she start talking about kicking you out, that's when you know
Oh
is
my
she
god!
getting impatient. But it's fine. I just won't pick up no more food from now on.
Damn, my damn house doing all that. He's screaming at me.
He know he ain't got no job. He can't be kid on the streets. You know she
Oh
doing that.
my god! I bet that's been happening to somebody that you ain't got no job
Not
no more.
really, not really, because I just don't talk to her. But I mean, she can yell all she want. I'm not getting her to get that mail until I'm done talking. Um, but anyway, his preoccupation is with frames and about artifice and about the kind of stories we tell. If you watch Certified Copy, a movie he made before like Someone in Love, I don't understand that movie at all. It has amazing performances, but it's extremely confusing. And it ends similar to like Someone in Love, where it ends you're like, that's the end of it. I don't know what was going on, why they were doing what they were doing, but it's critically acclaimed. And I looked into it, I was like, it's not about the narrative. He doesn't care about the story being told. He's like, yes, I'm gonna end this story before it finishes because it's not about that. What it's about is these people, what they represent, and who are they to each other. And if you go into this movie saying, I want this movie to tell me a compelling story, you'll leave like Someone in Love being like, well, that's not a good movie because it doesn't tell a sufficiently competent and satisfactory story. But if you understand
Well,
what his
well,
but if you understand what his aim is and what he's doing, and you go into like this is an art film, he's doing something very specific about how he's using the frame and the characters, then you can get a lot more out of it. And that's
well,
why
my
I love
whole
something
point
like
is this.
Someone Else.
My whole point is this. Like with Whiplash, like people say that it ain't the most diverse story or it ain't the most intricate and dense story, but the characters and the acting is so good, and the cinematography, it makes up for it or whatever, and that's fine. And I'm not saying like just because like you can ask the same questions for each movie that it's going to be a baseline answer or a similar answer. Like on some movies, the story is accentuated more than others. And one of my favorite movies is The Revenant. It ain't that much of a story, but the visuals and the acting, everything else, it makes it a great movie. So I agree with you.
But the Revenant is a story though. It's very much about
But
leading to
but
an
also
objective.
but also no,
The
I
whole
don't.
movie, the whole movie is built into that final fight.
Well, hold on. But also you can still say that the story trash, and that's fine. Just because that ain't what he's trying to do don't mean the story ain't trash. And they definitely were trying to do it because the script was so hot at the time because of the story. So something happened where the story wasn't good no more. It could have just been time, and that type of story just ain't good in 2020. Or it could have been the producers and everybody who worked on the movie and they made it a bad story, like in their trying to get it made. So things happen, but you can still
I think if
create
you take
a
that same, I think if you take that same script for Gemini Man and have it set in 1998 and put like Nick Cage in it or whoever would be in it at the time, that movie makes like $100 million and people love it. It's just
well,
about the expectation
Will
of what
Smith.
they
Well,
want out of their
no, 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 no. Well, also it's a different time, and also Will
yeah,
Smith
because
comes with a
different
lot of,
sensibilities.
and also Will Smith comes with a lot of baggage, and rightfully so because he didn't pick well in his career, in my opinion.
I
So
disagree.
I know you do, but I watched that video again I sent you like a year ago. It's about the weird and frustrating career of Will Smith, and him turning down Django is like it's the epitome of his entire career. It makes so much sense He's more, his brand is, and he said it in that round. So he was like, I wanted it to be a love story, not a vengeance story. Like if I kill everybody at the end, I'd rather it end with me and the woman, and just like in our thing. But like, and like you turn down a chance to work with Quentin because of your brand, I guess. And it just makes sense of him. His whole career is about like him and his brand, and he smiles and all this stuff. And it's just like you missed out on probably a lot of opportunity. I don't know all the movies he missed.
But I,
All the
but,
movies,
but I
but
also I think the difference between Will Smith and other filmmakers, other actors, is he is a guy who is very sincere in the movies he makes. So he wants the intention of it to be sincere. I don't think he's a guy who particularly understands pastiche in the way that Quentin Tarantino does it. Quentin Tarantino is coming from like a French New Wave go to art perspective where he's like, I'm going to piece these things together, and it's not necessarily about the kind of the what you call it, the sincerity of the emotion. It's about like the kind of collection of these ideas coalesce into this kind of package that showcases it in the best way possible. And I think I just want he understands that. Like
I know
there's a
what it is.
reason why all his stories are very emotional because he
You
that's
know what it is. I think Will he appreciates acting and television and movies so much because it got him out of his financial crunch, and it gave him a new lease on life in terms of a career. And I think like he has so much like heartfelt like genuine thank you to film. And I'm not saying like he do only like sappy movies, but he does movies where like it's always gonna be a happy ending because that's his life at the end of the day. Like he's probably a very happy guy, right? And so all of his movies kind of mimic that in some way. Like it's always a good ending, all that kind of good stuff. And even and Django was a good ending, right? Like the good guys won, but it was just too much of like that dark side, I guess. At the same time, like you killing everybody, and it just I guess it just didn't fit his mo in terms of like like I want to save the day, but in my way, where I ain't necessarily got to kill everybody in a gruesome fashion, and and I ride off with the girl, but it's a sunset instead of a burned down plantation house, and I think that that's the difference. Like I think he has so much genuine love for acting because because like I said, it came at a time in his life where he needed it a lot, right? So like he wants to give back to it as much as he can by making these movies that always end well, like The Pursuit of Happiness, and it always feels kind of hokey. I think at least to a lot of people, right? It always comes off as maybe like non-genuine as much as you were saying like it's so genuine. I think a lot of people think it's non-genuine. They like
mm,
that's just really what you've cultivated in this career, but it ain't real.
see,
And
I think it's like a complete misunderstanding of what he's going for. I think if you watch something like
I
um,
get what he going for. I just don't like it.
no, I think there's a reason why he doesn't make art films because he doesn't understand that language because he just like I don't get this kind of like weird diorama you're creating. What I move off of is instinct and like the need to be sincere in what I'm doing. And I can't play like a puppet in this story show, which is why I don't think he'll ever do a Fincher movie because Fincher wants people to be puppets for his story. I think Will needs to be like, I need to put my heart out onto the screen, and that's what makes me valuable. And that's why I pick roles where I'm able to do that in a significant way. You know, I mean, he's been known to change scripts because of that. And I think if you think of any story that he potentially passed on, like The Matrix, for instance, I get why he didn't want to do that because he was like, this is too intellectual, like this is too heady. It doesn't have like the kind of beating heart that makes you believe in the characters. The people who love that movie are interested in the ideas and the way it executes them, not necessarily like the true emotion of the people
Will Smith
involved.
should have career that Tom Cruise had because Tom Cruise is in that same boat, but he also did the really challenging stuff, and he really pushed himself as an actor. But like he,
But Tom
um,
Cruise isn't as sincere as Will Smith is. I think Tom Cruise is a guy who takes things very seriously. And the reason he works with someone like Kubrick is because he's like, you're good and you tell like really fascinating stories. I want to be a part of that. And I don't think Will
he
Smith.
worked with Paul Thomas Anderson and then Kubrick.
But what I'm saying is like Will Smith probably wouldn't work with Paul Thomas Anderson unless it was something like Phantom Thread, which he's like, I can understand the kind of the link between the emotions here. But
I don't think third,
something like The Master, he's like, this is too baroque. I don't understand why people are making these choices. And I think he needs to understand why people are making the choices they're making. He
and
could,
that's why he has a frustrating career.
nah, because
It's frustrating to me because he could have been in fucking Django.
I don't think he would be good as Django.
I don't. I,
Because he wouldn't get it. He would be like, this isn't like, why am I like? Because Jamie Foxx plays Django very unemotional throughout that entire movie until the very end, and I think Will would be like, no, I have to feel something here. Like I got to show some kind of remorse or pain or
he
something.
would be trying to cry when the old boy getting ate up by the dogs and stuff.
Yeah, he'd be like, I need to show something on my face. Like this is not right. Like I think that's what
And
I'm
Will
saying.
would be like, no, you don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, well, he probably when he read Django, he was like, I don't get why these choices are made, and why isn't the point about the because that movie's not about like finding Broomhilda. Broomhilda is like an idea of a person. She's not a real character, you know. And he's like, no, Broomhilda and me. That should be the point of the movie. We should be invested in their relationship. And he's like, and Quentin is like, I mean, I guess no. The point is about like westerns and making stuff that look like John Ford and uh, the good and the bad, the ugly. You know what I mean? It's about like the camera movements. And Will's like, nah, man, it's got to be like people in the faces. That's why Gemini Man is so good because he's like, Ang Lee, just shoot my face, man. I'll cry for you. Like I'll give you everything. And that's what makes him such a compelling actor. That's why I think Hancock is so great because he's just like because so many people are like it's about the superhero pose. It's about like I mean you put like Hancock next to like Captain Marvel and like Captain Marvel is like kind of all business and like I have to do this for the culture and women. And then Will Smith is like he's like, hey, just put me at dinner, bro. Put the camera on me. I'm gonna give you this pain that I felt 100 years ago when nobody was there for me and I was in that hospital. And that's what makes him valuable because he understands that emotion, like being left behind.
But
He can track it.
For every Hancock, you got a Wild Wild West. So
Wild Wild West was him. I mean, that was before he was that good of an actor. Like I feel like Will Smith didn't become a good actor until after Ali. Like he was like he was fine. He was good
and
enough.
Michael Mann really gave him a lot of what he would take further, and that's why it sucks because it's like if you work with QT, and I bet QT would have given you a lot to take forward. And what was it? 2012, Django came out.
Yeah.
Imagine focusing that stuff after Django. I don't know, man. I'm just like it might have just been really interesting these last 8 years if he did Django. I bet he would have took a lot of different choices in terms of movies.
I mean, but that's why he takes Collateral Beauty because he's like, I can track the emotion here.
And but you do that and you got like a no name director and a no name writer and it ain't the best script and it's too much around it just for him to be able to cry and it's like Quentin will let you cry I'm sure in one scene if you just need to do that shit.
I'm not. I mean, don't be that like reductive about it. I think the point is like
Well, I'm reducing his career to frustrating. So yeah,
so. I mean, think about it like this. Like Amy Adams is considered one of the best who's working today, and like you know what Will Smith needs? He should be in a David O. Russell movie. I think he would knock that out of the park because it's a prestige filmmaker who makes interesting movies, but who also makes movies about like understandable human emotion, even if it's like hiding for comedy. And I think Will Smith would work in that world perfectly. And he
ain't
would,
that the one that you work with Jennifer Lawrence a lot?
yeah, that's he did Silver Linings and American Hustle and those, and The Fighter. You know,
I could have seen him in Silver Linings Playbook.
yeah, I mean he could have done that Bradley Cooper role pretty well because I think he could track that emotion. That may be a little difficult for him, but I think he would do it. I'm just saying like he needs a director like that who is like a good filmmaker, but also is working within like a tangible, relatable humanity. Like
But
if Will
that's the
Smith,
frustrating part though. It's like why do you need that shit? Like I don't
but
like
some people need that. Like I don't ever see him working with Denis Villeneuve, and I don't think he needs to because Denis Villeneuve doesn't make you know doesn't make the kind of movies that Will Smith would thrive in.
I
Like
think Will with Travis Sicario.
I don't think so because that movie's all about like people not really saying what they mean and being kind of two faced about stuff. I think he needs to play sincere characters who are honest about how they feel, and that's why I think David will also be good because everybody is like sincere to a fault because they can't ever just play their part. Um,
You think he could be in a James Gray movie? Imagine Will Smith and
yeah,
Ad Asher.
he could do that, but not Ad Astra. That Brad Pitt role, I don't think he could do that. He would still be too big. I think like I mean I don't know if you've seen any other James Gray movies.
I have not.
James Gray made a couple crime movies in like the 2000s, and he made one called We Own the Night, and I think it's starring Joaquin Phoenix, and I think Will Smith in that role, that kind of role, would be amazing. But James Gray only makes movies about white people, so that would
I
be
think about the notion that Ad Astra is about man finding God or trying to see if God exists.
yeah, fair.
Just go get the mail.
I'm gonna go get it. Um,
I saw them saying that he's. I can't focus with all the background.
yeah, they tripping, bro. All right, we're done here, right?
No, I ain't gonna talk about basketball.
We'll hurry up.
Why?
You do what you gotta do.
You talked about Gemini Man for 50
Talk about
minutes.
basketball, man. Dang.
No, I want to talk about why you don't want me to talk about basketball.
Well, if you talking about that, I'm finna just hang up.
Why?
You gonna talk about basketball or what?
You hang up 'cause we talked about what you
Talk
want to
about
talk about.
basketball.
Talked about what you want to talk about. We can talk
I
about
said
what I
we can
want.
talk about basketball. Talk about basketball.
But why you rushing me? I ain't rushing you about Gemini
I'm finna hang up, bro.
Man. Why? All right, guys. This was the first episode of Placeholder on the Tap In Media. Again, that's tapin.media. Y'all go check that out. It's a great site. Got a few articles up. We're gonna get more soon, and we're gonna get this podcast on there hopefully, and all future podcasts. Cause I want sponsorship so I can get paid. So yeah, we thank y'all for
Yeah.
listening.
Go cop your Dreamer Puma shoes.
No, this shit's
The
trash.
Puma RS
But,
Dreamers.
but
I
remember,
like them. When people
I
people
remember.
wearing them, it look dope, man.
Nah,
I'm
remember,
the dopest
COVID is
man.
a hoax. It's not real. Uh, Also, vaccines aren't real,
All right.
and
Nope. 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 We're not doing that.
and and Ian think Black Lives Matter is Marxist. So, keep that in mind too. It's crazy out here,
All right. I think we're done.
But placeholder, we love y'all, man. Tap in dot media, what up? We see y'all, boy. We get into the money, boy. We get into the money, boy. Peace.